we're waiting. Hello, am I on? Am I here? Is this live? This is what a strange time to be going live, isn't it? For a lot of people right now, it's very early morning. For me, it's not. It's kind of in the day. This is actually perfect streaming time for me. How is everybody doing? It is Friday the 13th. Very unlucky day, but it's been a very unlucky period of time for Wizards of the Coast. It seems like Games Workshop aren't the only company out there that deals with a ton of leaks. Wizards of the Coast have been, they're like a bucket right now that someone's punched a dagger with a lot of times. Hello, everybody. So, yes, the Dungeons and Dragons saga, the Wizards of the Coast Ogle. Now, who has not heard the term Ogle? I mean, to be perfectly frank, I very rarely heard the word OGL in my life. I heard it every so often, but I think I've heard it more times over the last week than I'd heard over the past 10 years. Honest to God. It's like 4th edition. Anyone remembers D&D 4th edition? Boy, I've never seen a community angered in quite such the same way. Hey there, James. Hey there, Red. Hey there, Matthew. Okay, so, yes, big title. Wizards of the Coast new Open Game License 2.0 terms have been leaked. And they have indeed been leaked. So for those who don't know, Wizards have been pretty silent lately. And into that void has stepped, I don't know, some like employees out there? Okay, so here's the deal, guys. I'm going to summarize what's been going on for those in the back who have not really been following this stuff. And I'll catch us up to where we are now. And then I will talk about the latest development, which has just occurred today. Okay, so here's the deal. Right, so Wizards of the Coast. They have this little game called Dungeons and Dragons. You might have heard of it. And they have a thing called the Open Game License. This allows third parties to build games and basically make their games compatible with Dungeons and Dragons. Honest to God, people don't really need to know much more about the Open Game License than that, okay? It's a pillar of the third-party community. It's a pillar of role-playing games. Everybody uses it. It's massive. It's hugely important. And yeah, it helps a lot of third-party, smaller indie publishers sleep at night because it means that Wizards of the Coast will not sue those companies. So there we go. Now, 1 D&D is coming out. This is the new version of Dungeons & Dragons. This is the update to 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This is 6th edition Dungeons & Dragons. They just don't want to call it that because then people will get a little bit like, I like 5th edition. I'm not going to move over. And Wizards don't want that, okay? So they're just calling it 1 D&D. They're like, don't worry about it. It's just like a platform. It's not a product. It's a platform. You don't need to buy the new edition because everybody's going to be automatically on the new edition. That's kind of the deal with it. Now, as part of this, they have updated the terms of the Open Gaming License to what you've probably heard it as is OGL 1.1. These terms are pretty predatory. People are not happy with them whatsoever. The community isn't happy with them. Third-party publishers aren't happy with them. Nobody is happy with them except Wizards of the Coast. Although now I'm starting to suspect that Wizards of the Coast aren't happy with them either. Okay, so everyone has disliked it, and there's been a lot of anger in the Dungeons & Dragons community. Now, this has been what's going on. This is kind of where the majority of the story has been. Basically, people are really, really unhappy with the 1.1 OGL terms. Now, that's fine. There's all sorts of issues. Probably the main one has been that as part of the new terms, Wizards reserve the right to take your content if you're a third-party publisher, take it, monetize it, sell it themselves, and you don't get to see a penny for that. And then they can even go further. They can give you 30 days notice and kick you off the program. So then actually you can't sell the product anymore. So people are a little bit like wary, like this is bad. All right, okay. They also have like royalty fees, all sorts of bad stuff. Now, most recently, this was kind of this anger. People have been really angry about this, and it's part of the spirit, I think, of role-playing games that people are very collaborative, and it's all about kind of creating content, and it's open, and it's kind of meant to be seen as more of a community than just an audience to be sold to. And a recent statement was made to a Dungeons & Dragons YouTuber and called D&D Shorts. And they got basically an email from a Wizards employee. And that Wizards employee also sent emails out to other people, like the journalist that originally broke the leak of 1.1. That employee, actually, let's look at that. Let's look at that. So the employee, they, here we go. Here it is. Whoops. Okay, so this is the email. And this is, everybody's gotten really annoyed at this. We're not going to go over it word by word. I want to highlight one thing. So in this, basically this email the Wizards employee essentially describe what it is like to work in a modern company. Corporation that is profit driven. I'm sorry to say, I'm surprised that everyone was shocked at this, but I was a little bit like, okay. So in this email, essentially the employee describes that Wizards executives discuss customers, the audience of Dungeons and Dragons, as obstacles between them and money, which if you've ever worked in any large company before, like, I'm sorry to say, this is the attitude that companies have towards their customers. But in any case, this really annoyed people. And as part of thank you very much for the super chat there, Red. Wizards of the Coast need to remember, the higher up the ladder, the bigger they fall. The Dungeons and Dragons name only goes so far. Yes, we will talk about that, because I think that this is resulting in a sea change in the community, actually, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So everyone got really annoyed about this, and what has begun to happen is Dungeons and Dragons players have begun to cancel their D&D Beyond subscriptions. This is a subscription service where you can create your characters, where you can run your dungeons and things like that. You can keep your stats and basically log your adventure, right? Your party. And people have begun to cancel this. This subscription service gives access to like the player's handbook and things like that. And this is really bad for Wizards, apparently. Apparently, this is one of the few metrics they're actually using to measure the level of outrage, actual constructive outrage. Now, Roll for Combat is a YouTube channel. And their channel is run by a couple of industry-connected folk. And they were the ones who sort of originally broke the leak. They were the ones who originally started talking about the leak and the new OGL terms. Now, yesterday, they ran a stream out of nowhere saying that Wizards of the Coast were planning on releasing a video addressing all of the community outrage. Apparently, this had been filmed on Tuesday, and Wizards were going to be releasing the video late yesterday evening for my time, essentially addressing all the concerns that everybody had with the 1.1 OGL. Okay. And also there was a Twitch stream on the Dungeons and Dragons Twitch channel planned for around the same time, okay? As well at the same time. Now, no video materialized from Wizards of the Coast. No video materialized at all, and the Twitch stream was cancelled as well. So Wizards basically just disappeared into the night. Nothing, they just disappeared. That was it. Thank you very much for the $10 donation there, Cal West says. Here for this historical time for the TTRPG hobby and community. Orc strong. Orc is a big word. Thank you very much for the donation there. We're going to talk about Orc in a second. So Wizards basically did not make any announcement. And in fact, we've been sitting now for a week, 2 weeks almost, of just silence while the community has been absolutely losing their mind, cancelling all their subscriptions, and the game seems to be blowing up. Now, last night, I think it was yesterday, Paizo have revealed the Orc. The Orc, which is a new open source, system neutral creative license that is being backed by Green Ronin, by Chaos Team, a bunch of other third-party creators. This is a new one being created by Paizo that they're opening up to the community, which is going to basically be a sort of equivalent for the open game license, only, not run by a single one company. Instead, it's going to be the custodians of that open license are going to be a company, a law firm called Azora Law, right? Who have no interest in running their own RPGs and trying to corner the TTRPG market and therefore squeeze all their competition, which is good, And that's where we are right now. Silence from Wizards. There's the Orc, is what it's called. It's the open source creative license or something. It's called. It's essentially the acronym's Orc as opposed to Oogle. Okay, so that's where we are. Okay, community in uproar. People are canceling the D&D Beyond. Mainstream news outlets have begun to report on this, like The Guardian. And that's when you know it's bad, by the way, because that's when stock prices might start getting affected, and basically investors might find out about the problems in the community. And there's just been silence from Wizards. Okay, so that's where we are right now, until today. So today, apparently, new terms have been leaked. Wizards' response has been leaked. Now, a little bit of caution here. This has basically been leaked by a guy called Andreas Walter, and it's been leaked on TikTok. Normally, I'd be pretty skeptical of that. However, a content creator called Instructaboy has basically said that he everything that Andreas Walter matches what Indestructible has heard. And Indestructible also received the original OGL leak. So he's been here like from the very beginning, since the very beginning. So whoever's been leaking all this stuff has also been leaking to Indestructible, and Indestructible has basically confirmed that what Andreas Walter is saying is true. Now, this is in a TikTok, so I'm gonna... It's pretty okay. So it's pretty interesting. Now, what Andreas Walters is saying is that the new terms, the OGL, there's an FAQ for that coming out. He thinks on Monday, and that's what he's gotten. He's gotten this FAQ for the OGL, and some of the terms of the OGL have been changed, seemingly as a result of community feedback. You know, all that anger in D&D Beyond subscription canceling. Right, so what is changing? So the FAQ apparently says this. Now, I haven't seen the actual text. I'm just reporting what Andreas Walter has said. So, apparently the OGL will now be rebranded as OGL 2.0 as opposed to 1.1. Good idea, in my opinion. 1.1 was pretty toxic. I don't think it's got a good brand identity right now. Like, what with people actually burning their books? So, it's apparently being called 2.0. Okay, that's pretty insignificant, pretty performative. Now, Wizards have clarified in this new FAQ that products released under the OGL 1.0 apparently will stay there forever. So older stuff is not going to get captured by the new terms, by the new open gaming license terms. This is really important because the 1.1 license, it seemed intended to revoke the previous terms and to capture all previous content would be moved over into the 1.1 terms. In this FAQ, it's clarifying that no, that is not Wizards' intention. Wizards are happy for you to have already created something using the old, better terms, and you can still continue to sell that, but anything being made going forward will be under the new terms, basically. So they're being very clear on that. Now, that is something to note, though, is that if you, say, have created content before in like 2008, 2010, and if you want to make an update to that, or if you want to create more expanded content for that supplement, for that TTRPG that's been used using the OGL, then you're going to have to create the new stuff under the new terms of the new OGL, okay? So it means that basically, if you're just somebody who created something a while ago and that's it, you're probably safe. But if you want to do anything with that content, you're going to get captured, boy. You're going to get captured, put in a cage. Okay. Next up, the royalty rate has been reduced. So, in the original 1.1 OGL update, royalty fees were going to get applied on to anything made that any kind of supplement or game made, for example, like I don't know, Critical Role. Anything they made over $750,000 would be essentially charged they have to pay royalty fees of 25% to Wizards of the Coast on anything made over that sum. They have reduced that in the 2.0 FAQs to 20%, which, to be honest, it's a lot of money, but it's, you know, okay, sure. I don't think that this was capturing a lot of people in the first place anyway. And finally, this was said as if it's super important, but I guess it'll save a little bit of ink. The new OGL, you can identify them by, apparently, the only requirements will be that the creator has to put the D&D logo, the ampersand, on the product that's using the OGL 2.0, as opposed to having to republish the entire OGL every single time, like the OGL text that they used to do. So, okay, fine. And that's it. That's the FAQs. That's the FAQs, huh? It's solved, right? Guys, everything been fixed? Everything, are we happy? Probably not, right? Like, this doesn't seem like it actually addresses any of the real concerns. A rebrand from 1.1 to 2.0 doesn't really do anything. It's not really very satisfying, I don't think. It's nice to get the clarification that the previous content won't be captured. That's nice. It's nice for Wizards to say that. But then again, can't we even trust anything Wizards says anymore? And it's nice for them to reduce the royalty rate. I don't think this was like a massive big deal. I don't think it's something most people were concerned about. The big problem here is that what Wizards have missed is that the actual issue, I think that the actual issue for most content creators and for most people out there is that Wizards can take third-party content, they can monetize that content, they don't have to pay any money to the third party, and then they could kick those third parties off of the OGL and just be like, bye-bye! and make loads of money themselves. And that has not been addressed with this new FAQ. It hasn't been addressed at all. From what Andreas Walters is saying, it doesn't sound like it actually gets even mentioned. Like, Wizards don't even mention it. And the things that they have kind of walked back on slightly, I'm saying walked back with a very, like, a big old tongue in my cheek, walked back on is like very minor, I think, very insignificant. There's just been one clarification that's nice. But really, I mean, like the 2.0 rebranding is like whatever, who cares? Like that's just for them. That's for their corporate branding structure. That's to try and get rid of all this bad PR so they can say, sorry, we have changed. They're easy wins, in other words. And I don't think they'll reduce the outrage. And ultimately, I'm not too sure. So this is something... I don't think that Wizards can actually do anything anymore. Like, I don't think that there's anything they could have said that would have fixed this problem, because they have basically absolutely destroyed their reputation, I think, with the community. Like, I don't think anyone will trust them, at least for a while. I don't think anybody will trust them. What do you guys think? Don't accept the lies, says the ravenous rabbit. Yeah. Okay. Ted LG says, I assume Wizards can still update with those amounts anytime with 30 days notice. This wasn't mentioned by Andreas. This wasn't mentioned by the leaker as to whether or not whether or not those terms had even been updated. So I assume that they haven't. I assume because that would have been, I think, worthy of mentioning for sure. Worthy of mentioning for sure. Sparky says, this is going to go to court, no way around it. I thought so too. Now, what I suspect is going to happen is, I don't know, I feel like Wizards have kind of really suffered a blow here. Oh, thank you very much for the follow there, DJP6. I really suspect that Wizards have suffered a blow on this, and kind of their PR has really taken a hit. We have to remember, this is a very vulnerable time for Wizards of the Coast, actually. This is probably the worst time for something like this to happen, because they're planning on bringing everyone over into this new edition of 1D&D, and it's these kind of transitionary periods is when they are at their weakest, when they're trying to convince people, compel them into playing a new edition of a game. 9 times out of 10. So normally, you know, if this had happened like 2 years ago, we would have had all of the inertia of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. But my party want to play, you know, 5th edition. We just want to play Dungeons & Dragons. We can't be bothered. We don't want to learn a new system, right? But what Wizards of the Coast are saying is, you're going to have to learn 6th edition. Even if it's minor changes, it's still change. You still have to update. You got to like... You know, you have to update your password on D&D Beyond or whatever. There's these issues. People have to actually do stuff to change to the new system. And that's precisely when Wizards are the most vulnerable, when someone like Paizo can sweep in with Pathfinder and go, well, we're also basically like Dungeons & Dragons, but better, or whatever their pitch is, right? And so that means people can get swayed. This is exactly what happened with the 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This is we're literally watching, I feel like I'm in a time loop right now. It's exactly what happened. Wizard of the Coast tried to get everybody to update onto new unfavorable terms. They tried to get everybody onto a new goddamn VTT as well, D&D Insider. And they were like, 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, everybody go. And everybody hated it. Everybody hated it. And they refused to move, and then Pathfinder blew up. Pathfinder became massive. Paizo became huge as a result. In fact, for a while there, I would say that they were the default Dungeons & Dragons experience. It was Pathfinder. It wasn't until 5th edition that Dungeons & Dragons managed to become the big game again, to take over the entire market and dominate it the way that Wizards have done so recently. And I think they're at risk of falling into another position. And it's been really tough for Wizards. We're actually looking, so this is something that I think people don't realize. I think we're actually looking at perhaps the end of days for Wizards of the Coast. And I don't say that lightly. I really don't honestly say that lightly. Wizards of the Coast obviously make a lot of money, and Hasbro make a lot of money. But whenever you have successive failures like this, one after the other, that's when we start, I think we might begin to see some executive level changes, because they're screwing the pooch. They really are screwing the pooch. Like, this is a disaster. This really shouldn't have been an issue at all. I think that what happened was they had that investor call with the monetization talk, and that has already primed the community to be a little bit suspicious. And then this OGL leak, and now everyone's like, oh no, it's here. Like, it's coming. And I think it has absolutely alienated the entire Dungeons & Dragons community, and I don't think any of them are going to trust Wizards of the Coast for a while. one of those things is I'm worried that the community will have a relatively short memory and just move on if they enjoy the game. With 4th edition, everybody was like, I'm not playing 4th edition. And that was easy to say because most people didn't like 4th edition. They wanted to play 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons still. If 6th edition turns out and it's really, really good, I'm worried that the community will kind of be tempted to move over, which is why I think we got to keep the pressure on. Got to keep the pressure on. Warlocks of the Coast, says Alignment Inc. Sparky says the fact that this is hitting the mainstream media today might be big. I think that's massive. I think that's absolutely massive because that's when their wallets start getting hit, right? That's when we start seeing actual like management meetings talking about this. It's definitely spiraled out of control. Like it really has. And they've been outflanked. They've been outflanked by leakers, which is incredible. They haven't been able to get ahead of this. I do believe Roll for Combat when they said that yesterday Wizards were planning on doing a statement, and then they decided not to at the last minute because basically things had progressed too fast for them to actually address. If they recorded their response on Tuesday, I suspect they doubled down. Some of the stuff we're hearing now about OGL 2.0. Thank you very much for the follow there, Cynthia Bloodmist. I think that everything we're hearing about OGL 2.0 is probably what they were going to announce this Thursday. So I think they're falling behind 100%. Cal Vanoni says Wizards of the Coast already pooped on Magic the Gathering. Yeah, I mean, we're Wizards of the Coast are just fresh off a huge community meltdown in Magic the Gathering. Just fresh off it. There's been long-term issues with Magic the Gathering, and it all came to a head late last year with the anniversary $1,000 booster packs being sold for Magic the Gathering. Christian Ice says, we literally saw the video being scheduled and cancelled. They literally saw the video getting scheduled and cancelled. I did not know that. That's wild. So they completely were like, no! Completely caught on the back foot. Jason Hagen says, Wizards of the Coast has shown its true colors. If you give them your business, you get what you deserve at this point. And that's the big deal. I think you're totally right, Jason. I think that this is the big thing here is that trust has been completely and utterly eroded. Consumer goodwill is a really important resource. So is working alongside partners in the industry. These are massive resources. The companies these days keep squandering. I think they've forgotten about this because so many of them are coming from other industries. If we look for a second, if we actually think about the people making these decisions, we have Chris Cox. Chris Cox's background is he was an executive over at Microsoft. Then he was the president of Wizards of the Coast, and then he became CEO of Hasbro. So, by the way, anybody who's saying that this is Hasbro and not Wizards of the Coast, Wizards of the Coast existed for 1 year before being bought out by Hasbro. Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro are inseparable. They are inseparable. Thank you very much for the super chat there, Doomfire Dan. Thank you very much, says, honestly, if Wizards... Honestly, if Wizards released stuff we wanted instead of all the crap from the last 5 years, they wouldn't have had the problem with third-party creators as they created stuff we wanted. I totally agree. So there's obviously been a lot of supplements, but there's been a lot of weird supplements. Like, I'll be honest, I didn't mind them, but I think that the kind of like supplement books where they were doing the setting guides for like some of the Magic the Gathering settings was kind of interesting because I feel like that was designed to try and get D&D players into playing Magic the Gathering where they could then be heavily monetized. This was always my opinion of it, like when those books started coming out. And at the time, people thought I was being cynical, but I think that knowing what we know now about how Wizards conceive of their audience and also think about the monetization of Dungeons & Dragons, I think that maybe in hindsight I might have been correct on that one. Katsune, thank you very much for the donation. Says, stay beautiful. I stopped D&D when they tore apart the core of the druids. I played the dark. I homebrew. This is the thing. Thank you very much for the donation. And I will. Thank you very much. Here's the deal, right? Wizards of the Coast have completely misunderstood what Dungeons & Dragons is. Dungeons & Dragons is literally... I know so many dungeon masters who just homebrew everything. Nobody needs to actually buy any supplement books. They don't need to. Obviously, it's nice and people like to buy pre-written adventures, but so many DMs, I think perceive of pre-written adventures as like the beginning of their DMing journey, and ultimately what they want to do is to homebrew their own world and setting and build that up for their table of friends. AV, thank you very much for the donation. Says Wizards of the Coast should pull a catalyst and embezzle freelancer pay to remodel their bathroom. Just make sure they're covered every possible way to piss off the fan base. Thank you very much for the donation, AV. Yeah, right. I think at this stage, embezzling would. I think that if someone had been caught like embezzling freelancer pay, that probably wouldn't have even got people as annoyed as that's where we are now. But thank you very much for reminding me about that little bit of history there, AV. I really appreciate that. And thank you very much, Old Dragoon, for the donation there. Says not entirely accurate. Wizards of the Coast published Talos Atlanta 3rd edition back in 1992. So they've been around at least that long. Are you sure? I'll take your word for it. Thank you very much. I thought they'd only been around for about 1 year before being bought out. But in any case, I'll take your point. If we look at the actual people who are making these decisions, Chris Cox obviously gone from Microsoft. He's now gone through as president of Wizards of the Coast and then CEO of Hasbro. If we look at Cynthia Williams, she is the president of Wizards of the Coast. Her background is even more interesting. So she was an Amazon VP for 10 years. Then she went over to Microsoft, and then she went over to Wizards of the Coast. I think that this style of business, I think that these executives, they're coming from industries where you can bulldoze your way through the opposition, where literally your goal is just to extract as much money. Everybody hates Amazon. Amazon know this. They don't care. Why? Because you have to buy from Amazon. Because Amazon own the market. They own it. And I think that Cynthia Williams and the executives at Hasbro, I think that their opinion is that they can do the same thing with these hobby marketplaces. They think that what they can do is they can bulldoze over the opposition. They can force through these changes, and everyone will just have to do business with them because they're the biggest people on the marketplace, just like Amazon. But those lessons that can be learned in those types of traditional industries, I don't think work as well for something like the TTRPG community or for something like war games or even board games. These are hobbies. These are marketplaces that are value driven. People want to support companies that they think identify with the same values as them. Very value driven. You see a lot of debate inside TTRPG hobbies, and it's because we're also value driven, and I think that the Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro have completely misunderstood who their customer base are. Now, I don't know about the gaming background of any of these executives, but I'll say this much: if you look at companies, they tend to be from accountancy backgrounds, non-gaming backgrounds entirely. They don't understand the marketplace that they work in, right? If you want to see a company that actually understands the gaming marketplace, look at somewhere like Paizo. That's full of employees, former Wizards of the Coast employees, who went on to form Paizo and who helped draft the original OGL. And what have they done? They've come out with this brilliant PR move. It is a brilliant, regardless of how useful it is, like how good an idea it is, this new orc, it's a brilliant PR move. It's the perfect timing to come out with an actual open source, free license for people to use that completely addresses all the issues of the D&D OGL. I think they've been very savvy in that. I think they've been very, very savvy. Mr. Smith's government class, thank you very much for the donation, says, just got here. Is this a new OGL 2.0 leak that wasn't the Paizo Orc announcement, or is the insider email that was leaked yesterday? This is entirely new. This is even newer than that. So there is an FAQ that has been leaked out to a number of people. And apparently the terms of the new FAQ are saying that so firstly, the royalty rates are going to be reduced to 20% as opposed to 25%. They've clarified that anything made before the update to 1.1, remains under the old terms. It doesn't get updated, but anything made after that does get updated. And what else? What else? Oh yeah, they're calling it 2.0 now. They're calling it the OGL 2.0 as opposed to 1.1. So, make of that what you will. Thank you very much for the £5 donation there, the Grognard. I really appreciate that. And for the $2 from Jeremy Putnam, thank you very much. Thank you very much, guys. Let's see here. So, Pablo John says, Amazon can't even make a decent TV show. They might be the most creatively devoid company out there. And with Disney and Blizzard in the mix, that's saying something. Can we talk a second, for like a little hot second, about the about how terrible a lot of these hobby industries have become over the last like 20 years? It really sucks. It really does, because it feels like at some stage, when they grew and when they began to make loads of money, it kind of attracted like employees and executives who were only interested in the profit maximalization. And what that has done is that has completely warped the industry. So now we get things like D&D players being talked about as if, oh, they're just not monetized enough. They're just not monetized enough, or as obstacles towards the money. It really sucks. It's a very poor attitude. It really is. And honestly, I feel like we were always heading here. We were always, there was, I kind of feel like it's inevitable. Because there's been a lot of pressures on Hasbro and Wizard, right? Wizard of the Coast, for example, they were given the task of doubling their, I think it was doubling their profit over 5 years, and they hit that goal in 2 years, 2 or 3 years. And then they were given a new goal of double your profit again in the next 5 years. So is it any wonder that they're making decisions like this that are going to aggressively after customers? I mean, like, should we really be surprised? Should we really be surprised? Not Cat 1 says, and the Paizo crew do play the game. I've sat at tables with some of them. Well, that's kind of the classic, the infamous TSR whenever they were collapsing. You weren't allowed to playtest any of the new books at the TSR HQ. You had to keep working. And that was one of the reasons why TSR ended up collapsing, because they were putting out bad content that no one would buy. And instead of paying the printers to release that content, they were paying them on loan. And then whenever nobody bought the bad books, they kind of collapsed in on themselves. So yeah. Playtest your games, people. Jason says it's as soon as shareholders get involved, capitalism is anathema to creativity, fun, and the human spirit. I think certainly public companies, I don't know if, I just don't think this is a good format for making games. I think that the last like 20 years have basically shown that. I mean, I mentioned this in a previous stream that we have to remember that we're kind of pioneers here. I don't think these types of hobby industries have never existed like this. We're seeing a certain type of style of distribution of games in a certain style. And it's interesting to me that we're starting to run into all these problems as a result of that distribution. Like, it really does feel like that. I'm not sure if Wizards of the Coast can create a really fun product, because they can create a fun product, but I don't know if things like this are inevitable. I think I just feel like these are inevitable now. Fried Mini says, check your Discord DMs. Oh, okay. I'll check my Discord. Let's see. So someone's asked me if I have predator hunting grounds. Let's see then. Oh, look at that. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we might have accidentally stumbled into the new OGL. It looks like we might have actually gotten the new OGL document. Oh, here it is. Okay. Like the music industry, adapt or die, says the Elder Geeks. Indeed. How about we look at the new OGL terms? How about that? Does that sound good? Does that sound good? All right. Let's see. Let's see. I think we should look at the new terms. All right. Let's do this. Oh, there it is. All right. How does this look? Awesome. All right. Let me just sort this out and we'll have a look through this together. So, this is an FAQ. This is an FAQ. Is this confirmed? Asks Perrin. Ooh. Hold on. Hold on. It's trying to get me to sign in. What the hell? 1 second. This isn't confirmed. No. This isn't confirmed. Oh, okay. Let me have a look at it then. Let me have a look at it before we actually show it on stream. Let me have a look at it. Okay, so we've got the 2.0 license here. Leaker ID. Leaker ID, people are saying. I don't see an ID here. Okay. I'm not showing it on screen. I'm not showing it on screen. Okay, I'm not gonna show it. I will. I will protect the leaker. Okay. Okay, so we have it. We have it here. Okay, so we're not gonna show the whole document, but people saw it, okay? Everybody remember that moment. So we're not gonna show the whole document here. We're not gonna show the whole document. All right. So, let's see here. So we have the frequently asked question. Oh, thank you very much for the donation. Doomfire Dan, thank you very much, says, heck, I think Wizards love D&D as they're acting like rogues, trying to steal everyone's stuff and expect no negative reaction. You know, I think there's a really compelling argument that thieves as a class shouldn't exist because everybody should be a thief in Dungeons and Dragons. All right. So we've got the new OGL here. This is really interesting. This is really, really interesting. Okay, so the OGL is a vital piece of the creator community for Dungeons and Dragons, and as we move forward into a new frontier of creation, a frontier not contemplated by the older version of the OGL, it's imperative that the OGL be updated to provide creators more guidance on the how to create for current. Awesome. Okay. I didn't see anything for the record, says merely the pawn. Okay, sure. So, I'm gonna quickly scan this and see whether or not it agrees with what I had seen from Andreas Walter. Where is Kelsey? Where is Kelsey? Oh, he's right behind me. Fraser's right behind me. Thank you very much for the donation, Crypto Kev. All right. So, I'm seeing here, it does... Let's see. So, it's saying that OGL 1.0 cannot be used to develop 5th edition content. So it's saying that 1.0 is over, basically. Basically, Wizards are allowed to update the OGL. Yes, SN Color, it is another leak. It is another leak. Oh, thank you very much, Rat Style says, hey, Discourse, fan of your hot takes. Well, thank you very much. I think they're all lukewarm, by the way. So it's saying essentially that as part of OGL 2.0, and that's what they refer to it as here. They're referring to the OGL as OGL 2.0. They are deauthorizing OGL 1.0A from future use and deleting it from their website. This means that OGL 1.0 can no longer be used to develop content for release. Ooh, spicy. Okay, so they're basically getting rid of 1.0. They're basically getting removed from 1.0. Is this different from 1.1? Asked Marcel De Jong. I don't know. This is OGL 2.0. This is ISIS. It seems like the terms are different. Now, I'm not seeing the actual OGL. I'm seeing like an FAQ, which is what I've been hearing from other people. Christian I says, Art 1 too little? Too late. Article 2, enjoy orc. They're giving a 6-month grace period. It looks like that gives creators the benefits of OGL 1.0, and that's to allow for any existing projects that are already in the process of being made. So they're given a 6-month grace period as well. And you have to give them all your details in order to get that. And any products then released before the new update will continue to be licensed under the previous OGL. That's it. Okay, so it'll be licensed under the previous OGL. Daniel Mallon, thank you very much for the donation there. For the super chat says, so this is OGL 2.0 and a leak of what it says and differs from OGL 1.1. P.S. Remember, boycott Hasbro. Hashtag OpenD&D, hashtag orc, hashtag Project Black Flag. 100%. I think at this stage, there's nothing that Wizards could say in this new FAQ that would get me to, like, forget like, what they've done already, you know? Like, they've already attempted to basically take advantage of the community. I don't think there's any changes here or anything that they could walk back on. Okay, so, let's see here. It asks a question, the FAQ. What if I don't like the terms of the OGL 2.0, or if I want to use the commercial version to share my content in share-alike form? And it says, the OGL 2.0 is open for you to agree to and to use. However, it's the only way to create content now. That's it. It has to be 2.0 or nothing. or nothing, or you open yourself up to litigation, basically. If you're using 2.0 to create, monetize, or commercialize content, you're welcome to share it with people with additional permissions. The new restrictions are the commercial version. Okay, yada yada. You don't need to know that. Essentially, that's the big, I think that's the headline here. If you're going forward, you have to use these new terms. That's it. Full stop. At least with 4th edition and the game license, the GSL, they let you sort of pick and choose which license you wanted to operate under. This one, they're not doing so. If you want to make any content at all, using the D&D IP is how they refer to it. The D&D IP. You're going to have to use the new OGL terms. Pavlo John, thank you very much for the donation, says, last night, Critical Role turned off the comments on their live stream. Probably a smart move. Anyone know what their official take is in all of this? Thank you very much for the donation. I'm not surprised that they turned off their comments. They're probably internally talking with lawyers and things and seeing how this affects them. They probably have also reached out to Wizard of the Coast. They probably know a lot more of what's going on than we do. But I also suspect that they don't like this. Matthew Mercer in the past has been pretty critical of big companies and monopolies. He also liked a hashtag OpenD&D Twitter tweet. So he's also talked as well in the past about creating his own TTRPG, and just like Matt Colville, I suspect that Matt Mercer, Matt number 1 or Matt number 2? Oh, that's the big question. I think Matt number 1 probably, even if I like Matt Colville a lot. He's already talked about creating his own TTRPG. I expect that this will probably drive them to sort of do this a lot more. Let me just turn on the light real quick. Boy, it's getting dark. Boy, it's getting dark out there. It's only 2:30 here, and it's already getting dark. So they haven't made an official statement as far as I'm aware, but I think we can suspect what it is. I think they're probably waiting to hear what Wizard of the Coast say. Terror Overlord, thank you very much for the donation. The $10 Australian there. Keep up the good work. Good work, lady. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, Terror Overlord. I really do. Okay, so we've gotten confirmation then that 2.0 is the only way to get it. All right. So how will this apply to 1D&D? 1D&D. We've been given a release date, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know if we had that already. 2024, 1D&D. 2024, 1D&D. There we are. Ooh. Ooh. Okay. Okay, ownership. So they've got a section here, like an entire section on ownership. And they're saying that Wizards won't get to use your content without your permission. Which is an interesting statement to make. Huh. They don't get to use any of your original or new content that you create. But they reiterate that they own the copyright, trademark, and patent rights to the D&D IP. Which is interesting. Interesting. Okay. They're saying that the original OGL, had the exact same effect as this. So what they're claiming is that OGL 2.0 and OGL 1.0A are basically the same in that regard. That there's no actual changes between those two. And that's an interesting one. I'm not sure if that is totally correct. Crypto Kev, thank you very much for the donation, says, anybody have Bothan Spies and Wizard of the Coast? Anybody heard of Insider's Feedback? Number of how many subscription got cancelled, etc. I'd love to know. I suspected actually a lot of I think there actually probably has been a pretty high amount of cancellations. For one, the website was down. the D&D Beyond website, actually, the membership section broke for a while, and it was impossible to delete your account. You had to like go through this convoluted way in order to actually get it, in order to cancel your subscription for a while there. They did get it fixed. I don't think it was I don't think they did it on purpose. I think they did it because I think it's just the server overloaded. So quite a lot of people, I suspect, were putting a lot of pressure on the systems. On the systems there. So I think there was quite a lot. Archimedes D says, meat's back on the menu, boys. I think that's the orc, huh? Theo Bro says, but you have to agree to OGL 2.0, so they get permission then. Let's see. Chaos Slayer says, they say they won't, but by signing the new OGL, they say you give them permission. Martin Verback says, question, is there now an actual 2.0 release instead of the 1.1 leaked? So where we're getting the words OGL 2.0 is from, it seems to be a leaked FAQ that Wizards intend on releasing at some stage. I don't know when. I've been told Monday, but I think that this might be something that they were working on to release yesterday after that video that they were meant to release just didn't come out. And so I think they might be probably updating some of the FAQ. But the 2.0 here, I mean, there's definitely changes for sure. It's kind of clarification language. And at a quick glance, it doesn't look like there's any actual legal language in here. This is just an FAQ to kind of clarify their intent on what they plan on doing in future. Chris Herzog says, where did I receive the UGL 2.0 and where can we find it? So I heard about this originally from, there was a person called Andreas Walters on TikTok, and then it just kind of fell into my lap. And whenever I started a stream to talk about it, it just kind of fell into my lap out of nowhere. So there we go. Let's see here. Joe Schultz says the permission is signing the 2.0. So I don't know. I suspect that we're actually going to see updated legal language. I suspect that we're actually going to see an updated OGL then. This FAQ is going to be alongside the updated OGL, and I think that the new OGL is actually going to be where we find out about the permission qualities, because I suspect that the actual terms of the OGL 2.0 is going to say something to the effect of, you give us permission to release, to monetize your content and to release it, right? But in this FAQ, like, you have to give us permission. Like, we won't do it without your permission. And then in the OGL, when you sign it, we'll actually give permission, I suspect. Estelle Leah, thank you very much for the addition, says, I'm not for more OGL-style licenses from other corporations. We didn't need more licenses, and certainly not more companies taking advantage of the situation. This whole thing is a mess. So I think that's a really important point, Estelle. I actually totally agree with you. So firstly, you could, like, all these companies could always have released it using Creative Commons, right? Because, as it has been said lots and lots of times, you can't copyright game mechanics. You can't copyright game mechanics. Now, I think that the OGL, specifically from Dungeons & Dragons, was useful for a lot of third parties because it gave them peace of mind. It allowed them to sleep at night knowing that Wizards of the Coast wouldn't sue them because they were publishing it the proper way, through the OGL, through the Open Game License. This change obviously has changed the calculation there. Now, I do agree that in a sense that we don't really need more open game licenses. You know, like Paizo have got their Orc, we got Cobalt with the Black Flag. These are all these new open game licenses coming out. We don't actually need them because really, creators can just release using Creative Commons. Now, but what I will say is that there is actually a value to having an open game license like this, if only for the branding for those companies. If only for the branding for those companies. I'm not just talking the branding for Paizo. Obviously, this is a very, very adroit PR move, I think, to release their own open game license. But I think that there is actually a utility in having companies like Chaosium and Cobalt Press and Paizo all signed up alongside a bunch of other smaller companies, because it creates a little bit of a branding. The way that Dungeons and Dragons refer to themselves as the D&D IP and the D&D kind of community, I actually like the idea of a bunch of disparate companies coming together to release their own open game licenses, because that will create more variety in the marketplace, and it will also be kind of almost like a mark of quality, right? Almost like a mark of quality. And I think that's actually important for the marketplace. But yes, I totally agree. I don't want everybody like releasing, I don't want the hobby to like cement around a single company and like to ossify around a single game. I actually think that is bad. I like there to be like a huge variety of content. And but I don't think that like the open game license that Paizo were putting out, like the Orc, I don't think that that's going to like ossify so much. It is going to open up the marketplace to more companies and give them peace of mind, because they're kind of being backed by Paizo then, right? They're like, well, we were part of this licensing, and if it's kind of like you come for one, you come for everybody. So that has definitely got a utility there. GM Jeremy says, to UGL 2.0 summary, anyone? We're actually kind of going through it here. Right now. So far, Wizards have clarified that anything published under OGL 1.0a is under the 1.0. It still continues to be published under that version. However, anything going forward will have to be published under the OGL 2.0. They've also said that, you have to give us permission in order to actually monetize your content. But then we haven't seen the actual, this is just an FAQ that we're looking at. We haven't seen the actual legal terms. And so I suspect that those legal terms will contain the permission. Sean Vera says, sorry, Discourse, but there are issues with using Creative Commons for TTRPGs. That's why companies use the OGL model. I totally agree, Sean. So Creative Commons has there's a bunch of different versions of Creative Commons, and some of them open those games up then to be monetized by other people, and some don't. And it's definitely way more complicated. I totally agree with you, Sean. I think that those things can be navigated, but obviously this is more expense as well. This you're kind of expecting smaller companies to start to pay trademark lawyers to start looking over the games, and this kind of reduces the barriers to entry into the market by creating just the standard license that people can just publish under. And because it's system neutral, it means that it's not going to ossify around a single game. Kyle West, thank you very much for the donation, says, Paizo also promises that the orc will not be owned by any game publishing company, but rather an independent law firm and eventually a non-profit. I think that's super important, Kyle. Thank you very much. Azura Law are going to be the company that is they're the kind of law firm that are going to be the custodians of it for the time being. And I think that's really important because obviously Azura Law have no interest in trying to monopolize the TTRPG hobby, right? So I think they're actually really good custodians, and then a non-profit's a good idea. Simon Guy says, by signing the OGL, you're giving them written permission through their terms. Jose Quatera says, I've been part of the free software community since the late 90s, and Creative Commons is still very confusing to me, unlike the free software licenses. And I think that is a really good point. I really do. I think that anything you can do to reduce the barrier to entry, to create a game and just put it out there so people can enjoy it, I think is super important. And I do think that open game licenses do facilitate that. I do think they have a value. And what I'm really loving about the org is that it's not around a single game system, that it's system neutral. That means that people won't be is it D&D? No, I'm not playing, right? It kind of reduces that. It reduces that barrier to entry for people to try games. Ollie, thank you very much for the donation. 6 euros says, you'll like the latest video meme post on Twitter by Double Crit Fail. You're in it. Oh, well, if I'm in it, I'm gonna love it, right? Although I've seen videos with me in it that I don't like. But thank you very much for the donation. I will bear that in mind. I will bear that in mind. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's see here. So, and this new OGL 2.0, by the way, will apply to 1D&D, which apparently is being released in 2024. There we go. All right, let's scroll on down. Oh, thank you very much for the donation there, CryptoCav says. I don't understand. What possible value would any games company have in signing this 2.0? Does Wizards of the Coast think anyone is actually going to sign this? I think that an open game license with Dungeons & Dragons is very tempting for a lot of smaller publishers because they want to use Dungeons & Dragons and they would be worried about getting sued by Wizards of the Coast if they tried to create content. Also, don't forget, 1D&D is being very much built alongside the platform, the online platform. So I think that if you want to get any content onto the virtual tabletop system that Wizards are putting out there, you're going to need to sign these terms. You're going to need to sign these terms. And one of the elements, I think, one of the strengths of actually taking Dungeons & Dragons and centralizing it on an online platform means that you can create the gate. You can create the circumstances by which anyone can engage with your game. Right now, anybody can engage with Dungeons & Dragons. They obviously don't want that to be the case. Ben Williams, thank you very much for the donation, says, I like you. Your Christmas score must be high. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Just gotta keep rolling, dude. But even still, whenever, you've got your skill points and you're getting that +4, +5 to your charisma rolls. You can still roll a 1. You can always roll a 1. CryptoCat says, I sympathize, been in some videos I don't like, but it was dark, I was young, and needed the money. Well, less said about that, the better, Crypto. Thank you very much for the donation. Okay, on royalties. So, essentially, Wizards seem to be clarifying. By the way, I'm just skimming over this. First time I'm seeing it myself, so I'm kind of skimming. I might miss a couple of things here and there. But it's basically explaining that Wizards are charging royalties, and the reason for that is they don't say this. Basically, they're kind of saying, well, we don't want anybody making tons of cash on it without any checks and balances. So that seems to be the PR move here. We don't want anybody releasing something we don't like. That's not cool. And so there has to be checks and balances. That's why they need to pay us money. Because of checks and balances. Checks and balances. Bank account balances. Got him. Okay. So, and they talk, this is actually a very funny way they put this. They say, for very successful creators, if you're making a lot of money on your Dungeons and Dragons content, we want to talk and grow together. Cha-ching. Basically, they want some of that cash. They want some of that cash. The Warlord 18, thank you very much for the donation, says, forcing 2.0 is shaky at best, will likely need to go to court to force it one way or the other. If Hasbro loses, does that open the possibility of them losing the copyright? Love the channel, keep it up. Well, thank you very much. I don't think that actually was, I don't think Hasbro were at any risk of losing their, the kind of copyright to the D&D IP, as they put it. I think that, honestly, what we could see is either a clarification, like a stronger precedent that the game mechanics can't be copyrighted, or the other way around, because I've actually heard suggestions. Now, take this with a massive pinch of salt. Take this with a salt shaker of salt. I've heard suggestions that Hasbro are kind of happy enough to go to court over these things because they kind of want to establish a new precedent that you can copyright game mechanics, and that they have a suspicion that the kind of makeup of the Supreme Court right now actually makes it more favorable that those judges would find in favor of Hasbro as opposed to a plucky underdog. But take that with a massive pinch of salt. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think that that's the case personally, but I've just heard that suggested. Okay, and then, yep, it looks like royalty rate is now 20% as opposed to 25%. The new royalty rate is 20%, which is interesting because that was the rate that Kickstarter had negotiated personally with Wizards of the Coast. They had taken it from 25 to 20%, and it looks like now that is going to be the standard. Thank you very much for the donation there, James Floyd Kelly, for the $5 donation. Says, thanks for all you do as an OSR third-party creator, the tabletop engineer. I appreciate your excellent coverage of this mess. Orc has me hopeful. I'll tell you what, Orc has me really hopeful as well. I'm really happy to see it. I'd really love to see the community kind of come together around that. I was really curious. I saw Chaosium had signed up to the Orc, actually, which was surprising, because Chaosium do have their own open game license, so I don't know whether or not they're going to be adopting the new terms, which I'm really happy to see, because I wasn't, like, the biggest fan of the Chaosium terms, so seeing that they might be going over with Paizo has me really warmed. But thank you very much, James. I really do appreciate that a lot. Sean says, I am friends with a few professional game developers and publishers using OGL as it was cheaper than having a lawyer make their own version. And ultimately, that's the biggest thing, isn't it, Sean? That's the biggest deal, is being able to just essentially save as much money on the faff. On the faff, okay? We want to give the money to the artists. We want to give the money to the writers. We want to give it to the designers. We want to create more awesome games. We don't want it to go to lawyers. And I say that as an ex-lawyer. You don't want it to go to lawyers. Don't give your money to lawyers. Well, when you can help it anyway. I mean, sometimes you just gotta. Okay, so then they included justification for why the royalty rate is 20%. And it's just the default. They do say that you can negotiate a bespoke license agreement with them, but this is the default. And the band is still $750,000. So it hasn't reduced. They haven't reduced that at all. And okay, so and they clarify as well that it's anything over 750. So it's not once you cross the threshold 750, you owe 20% royalty fee on everything. It's only after that. That's still pretty crazy though, because I'm just gonna double check here. It's on revenue, so it's not on profit. So this will be everything. This will be absolutely everything. Walter Starr, thank you very much for the donation there. Says the age of Ogle is over. The time of the orc has come. Dude, I think Paizo knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing when they called it the Orc, because they knew those memes would be coming out, didn't they? I mean, my last video on the Dungeons and Discourse channel was just filled to the brim with Lord of the Rings references. And I'm almost 100% certain that Paizo were like, yeah, okay, this is what we gotta do. Okay, it clarifies then that it's only when you have to start paying royalties is 2024 revenue. So it's kicking out in 2024. And that you will not owe revenue, you will not owe royalties on any existing content produced under the previous OGL. There we go. And, okay, they say you don't have to pay it for charity there. It's a big paragraph on that. And they also say that they do need, so financial reporting. They still require financial reporting, which I think some third parties are not going to be happy with. I don't think they're going to be happy with that as well. Wiley, thank you very much for the donation. Says, all it takes is one sympathetic judge. They've been virtue signaling with political woke crowd for years, and Chaosium posted they were going with Orc. Finally, happy-go-lucky and loving Armageddon. So, firstly, I am happy to hear that Chaosium have posted saying that they're going for Orc. I saw them mentioned in the list of companies. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, to be honest, so this whole, like, our Wizards of the Coast virtue signaling with political woke crowd, honestly, I don't agree with that. Basically, Wizards of the Coast are a company, and their goal is to maximize profit. And I think that Wizards of the Coast suspect that the existing customer base are going to play Dungeons and Dragons no matter what. They've already got them. Their goal is to maximize the new people coming in, and so therefore they're trying to kind of smooth out. We're gonna be euphemistic here. They're smoothing out some of the issues with older Dungeons and Dragons as they perceive it, and what that means then is that they're trying to make it attractive to as many people as possible, and so therefore they're trying to, I think that's the case. But every company's going to do this, every single company. And the thing to remember as well is that you can't treat these companies as like allies to any political ideology, anything. They have only one ideology, and it is to maximize profit. That's all they care about. If they thought there was more money in being super racist, they would be super racist. If they thought there was less money if they thought there was loads of money in not being super racist, they would not be super racist. They are as changing as the winds. Now, and that's not to say that there's not individuals inside companies that have values and they have principles and they have, they have integrity and they have ideology, certainly not. But as a company, as a corporation, throw that all out the window. I've talked with far too many executives. I've been part of many high level meetings. They do not care about anything but money, about the bottom line. That's all they care about. Ludite70, thank you very much for the donation. Says Wizards of the Coast are still releasing D&D 1 after this. They're delusional. Surely nobody will buy into their microtransaction hellscape after this. I think they're still full steam ahead. Remember, they already have an issue with loads of D&D players. Like, in a sense, okay? This is why the D&D Beyond thing scares them so much. This is why them getting a bunch of D&D Beyond cancellations is so scary, because they don't actually care about individuals playing Dungeons and Dragons if those individuals do not buy products. If they don't buy anything, who cares? They're invisible. The only value that someone playing Dungeons and Dragons in their home has, and that person not buying any products, the only value they have is getting brand awareness out there, getting other people into the game, talking to those other people. But they would happily lose, like, they've already said, the brand exposure is already massive. They're planning, and besides, they're going to do movies and stuff now. They don't need people spreading word of mouth, kind of the branding via word of mouth. The most important thing right now is to monetize the people who are already in. So they would happily lose 100 players who are not paying any money for one person that will spend hundreds of dollars. I mean, this is gaming, right? This is the gaming business model now. It's trying to maximize money from your wheels and spread a couple of what they call minnows into the environment so that they can, the wheels have somebody to play with. But other than that, they don't care about the minnows at all. So yeah, they're full steam ahead on the microtransactions. I don't know what it will take for them to stop that, but I think a change of leadership. Honestly, I think a change of leadership. Symbiote Mullet, thank you very much for the donation. Says, what if Hasbro get to copyright the use of a D20? That would be pretty wild. I think a D20's been in use for like thousands of years. Someone I'm sure will correct me on that. But I think they've been around for a really, really long time. Really, really long time. DKT says, Wizards of the Coast aren't scared of third parties until anyone builds a orc-friendly platform to challenge D&D Beyond. This is where they have pinned their future, and that is where the gloves will come off. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's why they panic with the D&D Beyond subscription cancellations. Okay. So there is a kind of product ampersand sort of thing going on here. Then they're talking about businesses and promotion. They basically clarify that, yeah, they're happy enough. They want creators to grow. And because it benefits everyone in the community. See, this is the deal, right? This is the deal with the original open game license. That wasn't like purely idealistic. I think there was some idealism in it, but the idea of the original open game license was that a rising tide raises all ships, right? Whenever you have a game system and you have lots of people making content for that game system, it's good because people will want to play using your game system because there's so much content for it. This was the idea. And so therefore everybody wins. Dungeons and Dragons wins because it gets tons of more content, which means that there's tons more people playing their game. Third parties get to sell content, make a little bit of money. They can create a thriving community, a cottage industry. And gamers win, role players win, because they get to play in a ton of games. They get to play a ton more content. That was really awesome. But this is kind of the opposite way. Now, they pay lip service to this. They're like, when you do better and make more stuff, it benefits everybody. But really, I mean, they don't actually really care about that, do they? Otherwise, they wouldn't be making these changes. Because they've benefited pretty heavily from the third-party marketplace. Okay, there's some weird language in here. There's some weird language in here. And actually, I don't think I'm going to read out this question because I'm kind of worried that it might actually be a little bit specific. Because I was warned that they might have put certain language in here to identify the leaker. But, there's like a very aggressive question inserted into this FAQ. And, they're saying basically that they're very open to discussing custom agreements if you are indeed making over the royalty threshold, the $750,000 revenue threshold. They say that they're open to discussing a custom agreement in that case. Red Foreman, thank you very much for the donation, says, biggest barrier to start D&D is finding a DM. What if one D&D supplied DM for a monthly, weekly fee, vetted to be non-offensive and safe for kids? Firstly, okay, I think that hire a game master is a really good idea for, like, hand nights. Personally, that's just me. I'm just putting it out there, okay? Head nights and like stag do's. I think that hire DM is a brilliant idea, and I'd be surprised if someone's not already doing it. As opposed to like save for kids. I think that you could actually get it for kids parties too. I think that'd be kind of neat. But anyway, that's just by the by. That's a little bit of side hustling. I do agree that the biggest barrier to start D&D is finding a DM. I actually think that the biggest barrier is just finding a group. Period. I'm the admin of a kind of community for my geographical area, and it's all about bringing together players and DMs. Basically, it's basically a community center, guys, for people to like come together and play games at. And it's D&D focused because that's the biggest brand, and it means most people are looking for those types of services in order to actually find a game. But I think that's the biggest barrier to entry. I don't think it's necessarily a DM. I think that it's actually just finding groups of like-minded people, because people hear about Dungeons and Dragons, they're like, I want to play it, but then like, who do they play with? You know, like, who do they actually play with? Red, thank you very much for the $10 donation there. I really appreciate that. Says there is precedence for D&D to fail. Indeed. 4.0 was a dumpster fire. I knew of hardcore D&D players who walked away from the game. I expect to see a lot of new systems being developed like before. I really hope so. I actually really hope so. So I like D&D. I play D&D. I play a ton of games though. I play like lots of different TTRPGs. And I like variety. I flip from game to game. I play in weekly session, and there's a bunch of different DMs, and we all have our favorite games, and we're always trying to jostle play different games. But like, it's a rotating carousel of different games, and I love it. I absolutely do love it, and I want to see lots and lots and lots of different games. I don't just want to play D&D. And Red is correct. In fourth edition, people did walk away. I actually came into role-playing games before 4th edition, but I first played Dungeons and Dragons as 4th edition was coming out, and it was crazy. I actually played Pathfinder before I played Dungeons and Dragons, because that's what everybody wanted to play. Nobody wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons. Everybody was like, no, just play Pathfinder, it's just better. And that was the attitude at the time. So that could definitely happen again, only in a much bigger way, because the market's way bigger than it was in like 2007. So thank you very much for the donation there, Red. I really appreciate that. Sean, thank you very much for the donation, says, I am a whale. They are looking for Kickstarter super backers. However, Wizard of the Coast should have realized that whales like me do not do microtransactions. I totally agree with you, Sean. There are definitely groups of people who are like super backers, like you say, like you identify as, that that will pay tons of money. I think that most like whales are just people who would spend lots of money on the content. However, I think that microtransactions do work to get a lot of people to pay money. And I think that the traditional idea of a whale being somebody who is really easily able to afford lots of content isn't quite true. I think there obviously are people like that, but there's also people who can't actually afford to pay loads of money. And that's when more predatory kind of things like loot boxes, etc., those kind of traditional kind of video game style microtransactions begin to do their dirty business, right? When you change over from, say, regular cash, it's not like pay $5 in order to get some of the new D&D books. It's pay 59 astral coins in order to get, right? Like buy astral diamonds, and then it kind of starts fiddling about with your dopamine pleasure centers and stuff like that. So I think that there are groups of people who would do microtransactions, and I think they exist in Dungeons and Dragons. I do actually think that they exist, but I do agree. I think the culture of TTRPGs, there is a reluctance to give into this, but I've seen cultures change. It changed for video games, and I could see it change again for TTRPGs, but I hope not. But I really, 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 really hope not. Let me just catch up here. Let's see. Jason, thank you very much for the donation there. Jason Stevens says, do we have any information on the content of the orc? This is from Kubel Press, or if the latter will use the former? I think the orc is totally revealed on the Paizo website. I actually tried to look at it last night, but it had crashed because there was so much interest in it. So I haven't seen the license agreement yet, but I think that there is. I think that it is out there. The Black Flag from Kubel Press, I'm less sure about. But thank you very much for the donation there. Thank you very much. And let's see. Wiley, thank you very much for the donation. Says OSE all the way. Frog God Games play D&D like it's 1975. I was mentioning on the last stream I recently got Fantasy Trip, so I feel like I've been transported to 1977. I saw the Frog God Games have actually said that they will not be using any Wizard of the Coast OGL now going forward. So that's really interesting to see. Yeah. One of the things I love with the OSR is that instead of you taking actions, you have to kind of really, really, really engage with the issues, the problems that you're dealing with the encounters. Because there's no attack just to get rid of stuff. Okay, orc is definitely not finished, says Guardian 2000. Okay. Dave Cam says TTRPGs are co-op and peer-to-peer by design. Exactly, they really are. They're collaborative, and I think that's super important. Okay, so let's see here. So there is a clause here in the FAQ for the new OGL 2.0 that says, do you have a clause about being able to terminate content, and how do you determine what to terminate? Okay, so Wizards say that they are making their intellectual property available to third parties to use, and that therefore comes with a risk that people who do not know the IP or will use the IP in ways that are harmful to the brand of Wizards of the Coast and of the game Dungeons and Dragons. They say that they're going to allow people to just use their content without requiring any approvals. Then they need the ability to address the type of misuse as and when it happens. So they're being very diplomatic in how they say that. Essentially, what they're saying is if they don't agree with the content, they reserve the right to get rid of it, to remove it. All right, and then they say, then the question is, how can I run a business and make commercial content if I have to worry about Wizards changing the terms of our relationship on a dime? Okay, so there's language here that I want to be really specific with how I say it. So they say that they're including 24 months of notice for any increase to the royalty rate or the lowering of the revenue threshold when royalties start to apply. That's really, really, really important. So firstly, they are acknowledging that they may reduce the revenue, right? That's open. That's an open possibility. The revenue threshold before they start charging royalties could change. But they are giving it 24 months of notice. And that is a long period of time. 2 years notice is a really, really long period of time. That is actually much longer. It's not 30 days, luckily. However, bear in mind, those 24 months of notice to change the terms only applies to if they are changing the royalty rate or lowering the revenue. It seems, so far from what I've seen, it still seems to be the case that 30 days notice is the standard notice period if they want to kick you off the program entirely. I don't see anything here to suggest that that's being changed. So, Red says they really dislike the erotic fantasy book. They really didn't like it. All right, now the leaks. Okay, so, ooh, this is spicy, guys. Okay, this is spicy. This is really spicy. Question: why is some of this information different than the leaked drafts I've heard about? Ooh, they're addressing the leaks. So here they are addressing the leaks directly in the FAQ. All right. Okay, here we go. They say 2 reasons. They say, first of all, the leaked documents were drafts, so the things that have been leaked previously were drafts. And some of the content that people have been upset about was already changed, is what they say. Then they say that it's an iterative process. They draft, they look for ways that they have misread or misused it or have unintended consequences. Okay. That's what they say. Okay, so that's what they say. They're basically saying that the previous leaks were just an earlier version of the Open Gaming License. So that is Open Gaming License 1.1. The thing everybody's upset about is a previous version of the Open Gaming License. Okay. Right. Now, that's why they're trying to... So, for those who don't know, anybody who was actually privy to the Open Gaming License 1.1 had to sign non-disclosure agreements, which basically says you will not discuss this information outside of the, with any third parties, or else we'll sue you. Basically, kind of gives them that right? Without having actually... That's the general idea of what an NDA is. So, that's a non-disclosure agreement. They're saying here that the reason why they had people sign those NDAs was because, basically, they just wanted to get feedback on the 1.1. This is their claim. They wanted to get feedback on the 1.1, and that an NDA is standard business, and it meant that everybody could walk into a conversation feeling free to speak their mind. I don't know about that. I guess that's for their side. They want to be able to, say whatever they want, customers are just obstacles before we can get to their wallets. Because they're worried that someone might reveal that information to the D&D community. They also want to reduce the prices for those who they thought might be disproportionately impacted by such a change. Okay. Fine enough. I actually think it's fine to, ask people to sign NDAs when you're talking about sensitive contracts. I think that's fine, actually. I think that is totally expected. And then they say, some of the changes here in this 2.0 are a direct response to the feedback that they have gotten from the community. Ooh. That was always going to be part of the process, is what they say. Because of critics' voices, we have learned about concerns that had never even crossed our minds. Oops, we didn't mean to, is what they're saying. Oops. So, oh god, they're being cute. I hate it when they be cute about stuff. As above, it takes a multiverse, and one of the benefits of bringing the OGL into the 21st century, aka this monetized hellscape that we live in, means that opening up a much-needed conversation between us and our fans. Okay, so... They're saying that basically, that they have changed things as a result of feedback, is what they're saying, basically, because of the uproar. I suspect that it was less because of all the criticism, or more because of all the cancellations of D&D Beyond subscriptions. Bottom line, we're listening and learning, is what they say. Not because loud voices made us, but because it's what we always planned to do. And we're already doing that. That's one of the ways we like to do something. Okay. So, there we are. That's the OGL 2.0. Very little concessions. There has been some changes. And I'm going to go back and just kind of reiterate those. Kyle West, thank you very much for the donation, says, if you haven't read the Paizo announcement, you should read it. Paizo throws a lot of shade at Wizards in it. It's a satisfying read. Well, thank you very much for the suggestion, Kyle. I will need to read it. 100%. Thank you very much for the donation. Jason Karam says, we paid a lawyer to reserve exploitative rights for us, but it was accidental. We promise. Yeah. Baby doll. I didn't mean to. Yeah. So obviously, I think whenever you're making updates to any commercial terms, you will, of course, require people to sign NDAs. I do understand that, because you do want to be able to, talk about this stuff, especially if you're showing it to third parties who don't operate inside that business. I think that's actually totally fine. But, I mean, I don't think it's that sinister either. I honestly don't. I don't think it's that sinister. I think that is actually totally fine. On the other hand, though, I think that people should... Okay, here's my hot take, all right? I think leaks are good. I think leaks keep a company honest. I don't care, honestly, if someone signed an NDA or not. I genuinely don't. I think that a leak is actually pretty good. I think it was really important, because a lot of these changes would... In fact, I suspect that most of these changes here would not have occurred without the feedback from the community, without the outrage, without the anger. And here's the thing, I don't think this goes far enough either. So let's quickly talk about the changes then. So we've basically confirmed what Andreas Walters said. We've basically confirmed that, right? It looks like what he said is correct. Basically, the OGL is now being updated to 2.0, so it's not 1.1 anymore, it's 2.0. Products under the OGL 1.0 will still remain under the 1.0. Anything released after that will be 2.0, and it looks like there is a 6-month grace period for anything that is actually in the current process of being designed and sold. The royalty rate is being reduced by 20%. The revenue threshold is still 750,000. Wizards reserve the right to actually reduce or change that revenue amount. So currently it is 20%. They reserve the right to change the royalty amount from 20% to anything they want. Same with the threshold to 750,000. They can bring that down. They can bring that up if they want. But they promise to give a 24-month notice period if they do, which is pretty long time. Notice that they didn't mention anything about whether or not they have a change in the notice period of having to remove someone from the license. 30 days still seems to be, without any evidence to the contrary, it seems that 30 days is still the default time. They also say that reaching out to third-party creators, yeah, certainly. And they say that they will only publish the content that third parties create and monetize it with the permission of those third parties. However, I heavily suspect that what they mean by that is whenever you actually sign the terms to the new OGL, because we haven't actually seen the full terms, we've only seen an FAQ, hints and suggestions of what has changed. But when the actual new OGL, I suspect, gives Wizards the permission that they require in order to monetize the content. Basically, they also still reserve the right to remove people from the OGL program if they want to. They cite that the reason for this would be consistency with their brand. Those are the changes. I don't think that this is going to do it, guys. I don't know. What do you guys think? I don't think that this is actually going to fix things. I think that the horses have bolted. Anthem of War, thank you very much for the donation, says, do we think Orc will focus mostly on TTRPGs, or could I potentially add my tabletop war game to that license? I love to give my customers an open way for them to share their homebrew. That's actually a really interesting question, Anthems of War. Thank you very much for the donation. I think that's a really, really interesting question. It all determines on the terms, and honestly, it kind of determines on who Paizo are happy enough to add in. I don't see why not. I honestly don't see why not, because ultimately, let's be real here. Dungeons and Dragons could be construed as a war game, right? It could easily be construed as a war game. So I don't see why you wouldn't be able to, but it would take me to think about it. But off the top of my head, I don't see why not. I honestly don't. Param, thank you very much for the donation there. For the $5 donation, says, without the leaks, hundreds, thousands of creators would be jobless with no warning. What Wizards of the Coast doing is villainous and unforgivable. I totally agree with you that it is unforgivable. And I do suspect, so they kind of couched this update in this is an iterative process. Really trying to get, what their goal is to try and push as hard as possible in order to get the best possible terms that they can get. And I think that this actually betrays the original design ethos of the open gaming license, of the original OGL. The original OGL was a pretty idealistic document. And I think Wizards have totally betrayed the spirit of the thing. And by betraying the spirit of it, I think they have made all of the third-party content creators who looked to the OGL for security utterly insecure. And I don't think they can actually, I don't think that they can sign on to this new OGL 2.0 at all with any confidence, right? They will have no confidence, because Wizards, firstly, still reserve the right, it seems, to change it at the drop of a hat. 30 days is nothing. 30 days is nothing. 90 days at least, guys. 30 days is nothing. They still reserve the right to change the terms, but also, on the other hand, they still reserve the right to kick you off of the license. They still reserve the right to monetize your content, right? These terms are really bad for third parties. And the big, sexy orc in the living room is there is a new way of doing things. Paizo have been compelled to create a big, very heavy PR-friendly open game license, which is the orc. I can't remember what the actual orc acronym, could someone tell me in chat, please, what the acronym stands for? Because they call it the orc, and as fun as it is. The N-King says, no, do not say 90 days at least, no wriggle room. Yeah, N-King, so here's I'm just surprised that 30 days is extraordinarily short, right? This is my lawyer brain kicking in. If you're going to give notice, I think 90 days is probably the expected amount. So 30 days is kind of a wildly low amount. Calling this OGL 2.0 is like calling The Last Jedi Princess Diaries 3, says Jim Todd. I suspect that they were probably always going to call it OGL 2.0 and that the 1.1 is like the leaked version of it, because 2.0 just sounds sexier, you know? So Wizard of the Coast is lying, says John Parker. Yeah. I mean, of course they are. That is what marketing is. That is just marketing. Param, the Open RPG Creative License. Thank you very much. The Open RPG Creative License is coming out of Paizo, and I suspect that most people are going to be attracted to this because Paizo, first of all, the people who are writing this new orc license were the ones who wrote the original OGL that people have been operating under. So there's going to be some degree of familiarity. Plus, I've never seen the amount of community impetus to try something new than right now. DMs out there, now is the time to bring games that you've always wanted to play to your table. Now is the time. You have this golden opportunity. You should seize it while you have the chance. You really should. Estelle, thank you very much for the donation. Says, I'm not against Wizards of the Coast taking steps to be able to deal with third-party publishers and creators who are toxic to the community, but who decides who is harmful? Exactly. Who watches the Watchmen? Thank you very much, Estelle. Wizards of the Coast ultimately are just a single company that have their own interests at heart, right? Like, why should they be the ones who get to be the custodians? I much prefer the idea of this new orc license essentially operating under a legal firm and a non-profit. I think that's much better. I honestly do. I think that's much better. I would trust their judgment much more because they don't have incentives to kick people off of the license, for example. Evan Westbrook says Disney and Hasbro Wizards of the Coast going at it slap hand style. I don't think so. This basically clarifies that, for example, all those video games that were made under the original Open Gaming license are safe, right? It basically means that they're safe. And I don't think that they would apply these terms to, like, Knights of the Old Republic or whatever, if it was a new version of Knights of the Old Republic were to come out. Nerdalgia says, I don't care what the reason for the acronym is. The memes alone are amazing. I totally agree. The memes are absolutely incredible. The memes are absolutely fantastic. I love them. I love them. Okay. Let's see here. Param says, my game group helped me put my D&D books in storage. We're going to try some indie games instead. That's awesome. Thank you very much for the donation. And I'm really happy to hear that. So I'm not like one of those people that are like, D&D must die. I know a lot of people like that. I'm actually friends with a few people like that. And I understand that impulse as well. But I don't think that D&D should die. I think that D&D has a valuable place in the marketplace. I do resent, though, the idea that D&D is like the default gaming experience. I think it's a very specific experience. This might be just because I didn't start on D&D. I actually started with a game called Dark Heresy. It was a D100 system. So I have always had, like, D&D doesn't, like, occupy, like, a special kind of privileged position for me. I think it's just, like, one game of many. It is the biggest game, though, like, which is why you got to talk about it so much, because it is the biggest game in the marketplace. And I as someone who does run a group that helps facilitate people playing games in real life and online, I understand that Dungeons and Dragons is the game. I mean, the community is named after D&D because so many people just want to play D&D. And in fact, I had to kind of fight to get a space for other role-playing games. I had to fight a space to, like, allow for other role-playing games to be featured as well as just Dungeons and Dragons, right? So, and there is a utility in having a hobby kind of branded around a single company because it means that it makes it easier for people to get into. But I think it also has problems because it then kind of creates this wall. And one of the big problems that I think a lot of DMs have is that they can't convince their table to actually play something other than just 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons because there's a familiarity with it, there's a familiarity with the brand, there's a familiarity with the game mechanics, they don't want to read new rule books, they don't have to deal with new systems, and they like their characters. I actually think that one of the big things that people forget is that actually people prefer their characters as opposed to, like, the mechanical representation of their characters. I think that most people are just role players as opposed to, like, ROLL players. I think most people just want to, like, do a little bit of light role playing. They want to fight some combat and just have a bit of fun, you know, and they get attached to their individual characters as opposed to, like, Dungeons and Dragons. They see Dungeons and Dragons as just facilitating these experiences. So it takes something really good to convince them, a really good pitch that convinces them to move on to something else. But a really good pitch is Wizards of the Coast are trying to kill everything you love. That's a really good pitch, I think, to a table to say, let's try something else. So I'm really glad to hear that there's more people basically moving on to other games and trying out some new experiences. And once the floodgate opens, that's really big. I think once people start moving on from Dungeons and Dragons and trying other games, that's really, really big, because it means that people will be more willing to try other games in future once they realize that not every game has like 3 books that you need to buy and is like hundreds and hundreds of pages long for the rules to play. CryptoCab, thank you very much for the donation. For the $5 there, says, don't you dare announce you've secured the rights to a new Frasier RPG using Orc. Nobody wants it. Everybody wants a Frasier RPG, and it needs to be made. It needs to come out. It needs to happen. I will use Orc. I will use Orc for sure. Marcus Katz, thank you very much for the donation. Says there's an official update 5 minutes ago on D&D Beyond. Oh baby, okay. There it is. All right, let's see. D&D Beyond. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Let's see. Let's reddit.com/D&D next. That'll be where we find stuff out. r/D&D next. Okay, so there's been an update apparently on D&D Beyond. Oh my goodness. Cancel my D&D Beyond there, Dion Sub says the forgetful GM. I think it was a really powerful message, so well done. Well done, and thank you very much, by the way, for the membership there for 14 months. Thanks a lot, I really appreciate that. That's very cool. So apparently there has been an update on D&D Beyond. Let me pull this up. So, I don't see it. Ooh, the new OGL is on D&D Beyond. All right, boom. Let's go here. Oh, wrong one. Okay. D&D Beyond. So, apparently the new OGL's here. Let's see. Okay. Do we have a link to that? Do we have a link to that? Robot voice activate. Beep beep beep. DM Toolbox says new GL is on D&D Beyond. Let's see here. So you found it through Twitter. Oh my god. So this is a nightmare. This is a nightmare. Okay, hold on. Heal the machine god. Heal the machine god. Okay, let me jump on Twitter then. It's in their article section. Oh, okay. All right, let me jump into their article section then. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's go. Our media. My god, they made this difficult, didn't they? Okay, articles. Let's see. All posts, I'm guessing? Oh, there it is. Okay, an update on the open game license 13 minutes ago. Breaking news. I don't know what the hell we're gonna see here. Here it is. All right, let's go through this together. Let's go through this together. They better not be cute about this. When we initially conceived of revising the OGL, it was with 3 major goals in mind. First, we wanted the ability to prevent the use of D&D content from being included in hateful and discriminatory products. Okay, hold on. Hold on, guys. Hold on, I forgot. I gotta be such a fool. We need to get the Dungeons and Dragons bingo card. So let's get the bingo card up, guys. All right. So here we go. We gotta get the bingo card first of all. All right. So I think we already hit it. Let's see. Something about protecting the brand. Okay. There it is. All right, there we go. Okay, so we've hit that. Bingo. All right, okay, so we've hit that first of all. All right. Oh, hey, where'd it go? Oh, God, I have to go back. Okay. Articles, gotta go back. All posts. Oh, geez. All right, here we go. So, Let's see. Second, we wanted to address those attempting to use D&D and Web3 blockchain games, and NFTs by making clear that OGL content is limited to tabletop role-playing content like campaigns, modules, and supplements. Oh! Something about NFTs just got hit right there. Oh my goodness, they are going. Oh, okay, right. We're close, guys. We're close to getting a little bit of a bingo here. All right. And third, we wanted to ensure the OGLs for the content creator, the home brewer, the aspiring designer, our players, and the community, not major corporations to use for their own commercial promotional purpose. Y'all can play, by the way. Yeah, y'all can play. All right. Driving these goals were two simple principles. One, our job is to be good stewards of the game. And two, the OGL exists for the benefit of the fans. Nothing about those principles has wavered for a second. Okay. For the fans, at least, let's see. Something about protecting the brand. Yep, we got that. We love this game. We love this game. We're close. We're close. We're good stewards of the game. Let's see. We needed to do this. That's that, right? We've hit we needed to do this. Okay, there we go. We've hit we needed to do this. Okay. That is why our early drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. I think implicitly that's us hitting. It's just a draft, bro. Right? Our earlier drafts. These are our earlier drafts. I think we've just hit it's just a draft, bro. Oh man, let's open this up. Let's open this up in Paint. Let's do this. We are very close to a bingo. Have we had a bingo? That was why our earlier drafts of the new OGL included the provisions they did. That draft language was provided to content creators and publishers so their feedback could be considered before anything is finalized. In addition to language allowing us to address the discriminatory and hateful conduct and clarifying what types of products the OGL covers, our drafts included royalty language designed to apply to large corporations attempting to use OGL content. Where is that? Surely that's here. No, it's not. Okay. I would have had that, I think, in my bingo card. Okay, the idea that, oh, we're only going after the big, massive guys. It was never our intent to impact the vast majority of the community. Then don't have people sign it then. If you don't want the new terms to impact everybody, don't require everybody to sign it then. But okay. However, it is clear from the reaction that we rolled a 1. Okay, great, awesome. Yeah, well done. Very, very cute, very cute. It has become clear that it is no longer possible to fully achieve all 3 goals while staying true to our principles. So here is what we're doing. The new OGL will contain the provisions that allow us to... Oh, God damn it, I gotta put this headphone battery in, and I can't... I'm screwing it up. Okay. The next OGL will contain the provisions that allow us to protect and cultivate the inclusive environment we are trying to build and specify that it covers only content for TTRPGs. So, here we go. So, they're confirming that it's not Star Wars video games, basically. So, number 1 on the list. Let's just make sure here. It's only for TTRPGs. Not Disney stuff, so don't hurt us, Disney. Secondly, it's not content creators then who make YouTube content, I suspect, which is really interesting because I think that there's been a lot of YouTubers who have been driving a lot of the feedback towards of I don't like this to Wizards of the Coast. So it's interesting that they're specifying 100% that it's not YouTubers or anything like that. It's just supplement books. That means that other expressions such as educational and charitable campaigns, live streams, cosplay, VTT uses will remain unaffected by any OGL update. Content currently released under 1.0a will be unaffected. Alright. Beep boop. Okay. Robot voice. Let's fix it. Oh my goodness. Okay. Did I fix it? Did I fix it? Is it fixed or is it still roboto? Let me know. They don't want me to reveal it. They don't want me to reveal it. Oh no. Is it still in full effect? Is it still in full effect? Okay. Fixed. Ah! Okay. Okay, better. Okay, awesome. All right, where was I? Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, guys. All right, while it would not contain any royalty structure, it will also not include the license back provision that some people were afraid was a means for us to steal work. The thought never crossed our minds. Thank you very much for the donation there. Crypto Kev says, give it a slap. I did. Under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. We won't. Okay, well, that's actually not changing anything. So they did say that in 1.1. They said, you own it. However, it's that little however that is the concern, because so ownership is kind of complicated. Ownership isn't like, I own this thing, ta-da, and that's it over. You own stuff, right? You own the right to distribute content. You do own it, right? But you have a bundle of rights. You have like a bunch of different rights and responsibilities with content, which means that you can own something, but you can give somebody else the right to sell it, or to distribute it, or to amend it, or change it in some way. So saying that you own something doesn't matter. It's actually just a pointless statement to make. Oh, you still own it. Okay, who cares? Like, are you going to be able to monetize my work? Because if so, that's different, right? So, under any new OGL, you will own the content you create. Well, okay, like that doesn't change anything. That's still what they said. That's still what they said in the 1.1. People were still having issues with that. Any language we put down will be crystal clear and unequivocal on that point. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. We know we own it. The problem is that you have the right to monetize it. Okay, so the license-backed language was intended to protect us and our partners from creators who incorrectly allege that we steal their work simply because of coincidental similarities. Has that ever happened? Thank you very much for the donations there. For the Dobo Roboto from JB. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And from K Leo, thank you very much for the donation, says, this folder roll has inspired me to start a new campaign. Don't know what system, but it will require many minis. Maybe hand roll something like RPG Sushi. P.S. It's my birthday week, so Discourse gets a prezi. Well, thank you very much, K Leo. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And happy birthday, by the way. Happy birthday. It's my birthday's coming up soon, too, so thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Yeah, so 25% of your money is ours. So I don't think that, like, making it clear that you still own your work, this is purely performative. This is like dealing with the aesthetics of the thing, right? Like, we're gonna still say that you own your work. We just get to make all the money on it, and you don't. Okay. So as we continue to invest in the game that we love and move forward with partnerships in film, television, and digital games, the risk is simply too great to ignore. Oh my god, guys, come on. We needed to do this. I really need to get this out on I need to copy this bad boy. Let's get this up. Okay. And let's crop. Let's crop it. Okay. Let's get an application. Let's get this bad boy opened. Here we go. Okay. Oh, okay, I screwed up. Never mind. So I think we needed to do this as a hit, right? I think that's a hit, 100%. I think that's a hit. You own it, but I do too, says David. Yeah. Okay. The new OGL will contain provisions to address that risk, but we will do it without a license back and without suggesting we have rights to the content you create. Your ideas and imagination are what makes this game special, and that belongs to you. Honestly, this paragraph doesn't mean anything. I think we need to see the actual agreement, first of all. I think we need to see what it actually says. A couple of last thoughts. First, we won't be able to release the new OGL today because we need to make sure we get it right. AKA, but it is coming, they say. Second, you're going to hear people say that they won and we lost because making your voices heard forced us to change our plans. Those people will only be half right. They won, and so did we. No, you didn't, wizards. If you had to change your original, very erroneous plans, and you had to change pathways in order to be more conciliatory to the community. Like, why do you even say that? Like, what is the point in that sentence? Some people are going to say they won and we lost. Well, it doesn't, they're totally wrong. Like, why even say that? I think that's just incendiary. I don't get that. Our plan was always to solicit the input of our community before any update to the OGL. So that's exactly what we've seen from the OGL 2.0 FAQ that we went through earlier. That's exactly what they said there. The drafts you've seen were us just attempting to do that. We want to always delight fans and create experiences together that everyone loves. We realized that we did not do it this time, and we are sorry for that. Our goal was to get exactly the type of feedback on which provisions worked and which did not. AKA, right, this is reads as, AKA, we wanted to know how far we could push things. Turns out, we pushed too far. Not to worry, we'll step back slightly. For now. But we know what they wanted. They wanted the 1.1a OGL. This changes nothing. This is what they want. This is why would they put it there unless they thought they could get away with it? Right? That's what they're saying here. They're like, we just wanted feedback. You wanted to know whether or not you could get away with this. They knew they were pushing their luck. And now they're trying to walk it back with like, oops. I mean, we always knew they would do this. We always knew they would say oops and be like, we didn't mean to. I don't trust them one bit. This is just PR. This is marketing. Someone has sat over the last week trying to think of the best way to construct this document. So to construct this blog post. Thank you for caring enough to let us know what works and what doesn't, what you need and what scares you. Thanks for letting us know what dials we can turn and how far. Thanks for letting us know what nightmares we can create. Without knowing that, we can't do our part to make the new OGL match our principles. Our principles being make money and make more money and make all the money in the world. Those are our principles. Help us make that. Finally, we'd appreciate the chance to make this right. We love D&D's devoted players and the creators to take them on so many incredible adventures. We won't let you down. It's too late. They already have. They already have let us down. So let's go through the bingo. So we got something about NFTs, right? They said something about NFTs, and like that was one of the reasons why they had to create these new changes, right? Let's see. It was for, let's see. Okay, we got, yeah. Here it is. The very second sentence. Second, we want to address those attempting to use D&D and Web3 blockchain games and NFTs. So, bam! Right, we score out something about NFTs. Then, something released on D&D Beyond Twitter, not actual Wizards of the Coast. Boom! We get that as well. That's an update on the open game license in D&D Beyond. Boom! Okay, that's number 2. Alright, then, lots of rumors going around. You have to... Boop, I'm over here now. Lots of rumors going around. I think we got that, right? They mention explicitly. They say this point. Let me move me back. They say you're going to hear people say that we won and we lost, okay? You've seen leaked versions of the OGL. Lots of rumors. They don't say that statement, though, so actually, you know what? We're going to leave them that. They do say it's just a draft, bro. They do say that this leak is different from the drafts. So they do that. They do say that. Look up the word leak. Oh, they don't actually use the word leak. Previous versions. Do they use previous versions? Okay. Our early drafts is what they refer to it as. But that's a leak. It's just a draft. Yeah, it's just a draft, bro. So they say it's just a draft. And then they say, they don't say the words, we love this game. So I'm actually not going to bingo that. They do say we hear you, though, right? Like, they dedicate paragraphs to saying the equivalent of, we hear you. And they say it's a misunderstanding. They say it's a misunderstanding. They say, oh, our plan was always to solicit our part of the input of our community. It was always our plan. It's a misunderstanding. We got a bingo, people. We got a bingo. Come on. Protecting the brand. They do say they have to protect the brand, and they needed to do this. This is a big bingo. This is a big bingo, right? Am I right or am I wrong, chat? Is this a bingo or not? This is a bingo, right? This is a bingo. Bingo! Yes, bingo! Grim Dankness with a $2 donation says, quote, we wanted feedback. Motherfucker, no! The thing leaked! Exactly! Okay, so I think I don't know who they actually gave this to. I think they gave this to third parties. But they were already negotiating terms with, like, Kickstarter, right? Like, they were already willing to concede with certain select groups. But there was no talk about making the 20% for everybody. Yeah, with the whole thing was about NFTs. Yeah, right. And actually, hold up. Hasbro NFT statement. Hold on. Hold on one little second. Because they're like, we didn't want people to monetize it using NFT. Hold on one hot little second. Hold on one hot little second. Can we just for a little hot second remember something here? Hasbro considering NFTs for Magic the Gathering, D&D, and Transformers. There was a... Here we go. In a statement, Goldner. Okay? Who is Goldner? Oh, Hasbro CEO at the time. Goldner says, NFTs are a real opportunity for us. As you know, we have so many brands that really operate on multiple demographic levels. Whether it's Transformers, whether it's Magic's and the D&D brand. The D&D brand. And brands like G.I. Joe. We have a team that is leading our effort out of the West Coast. We have our arms around this and see multiple opportunities on the NFT side, and you'll hear more about that as we move forward. But we are actively developing our opportunities here, and we do see it as substantial. They wanted to use NFTs before the world turned against NFTs, and they all began to feel. They would have done NFTs if they could have gotten away with it. Yeah, right. We just didn't want to have NFT. Yeah, right. For real. No way. No way. They were happy. They were happy with that. They were happy with it. Oh, goodness. Okay. So there we go. There we go. So far, basically, we've gotten the kind of statement, I think, that we all expected. We have gotten a pretty bland statement, and I'm gonna link it here in chat. I'm gonna send that via chat. Can I do that here? Yeah, there we go. So I've linked it via chat. There you go, and you can see that statement for yourself. Honestly, right now, it's basically hit the bingo card, and it's to be perfectly frank, they're not saying anything that we didn't expect Wizards to say. This is the standard PR statement that of course they were going to make. And we've already seen what the new OGL is going to be. We've already seen the OGL 2.0 FAQ that has been leaked out. So we know what this is going to look like. And the only things that have really changed, it seems, from the FAQs are the royalty rates have changed. They've gone, the actual threshold, is 750,000, and the actual rate that you pay on the revenue is 20%, which, to be perfectly frank, honestly, I think that the royalty payments were one of the least kind of worried about things. The big issue was that Wizards reserved the right to take control of your stuff. Now, when I say take control, I'm being very loosey-goosey when I'm saying that, okay? And Wizards are kind of trying to hide in that loosey-goosiness. They're trying to hide in the aesthetics of ownership. They're trying to hide in the aesthetics. Ownership isn't like just this para real quality that just is granted, you know? It's not like I am now the owner of this thing. No, you have the right to do certain things with stuff that you own, right? You have a bundle of different rights that you can do, and Wizards do not seem to still be reserving the right to do certain things with things that are signed up via the OGL. But we don't know the full scope of that yet, because they haven't released the OGL, because I think they're still trying to figure out how far they can push things. But they've basically clarified that, the third parties still own all their content. Well, yeah, okay, we always knew that. What about the fact that you guys have the right to take stuff? Yeah, and it's just a blog post from D&D Beyond, not even a statement from Wizard of the Coast. Come on. The Frickerville DM says liars. They are such liars. They wanted to see what they can get away with. 100%. They wanted to push it. Because they're never going to be happy until they have all the money in the world. That's what they want. They hate the fact that other companies are making money, and they're not. They want all the money in the world. They really do. Param says they cancelled 2 videos and now it's just a bland blog toast. Yeah, it seemed like they did have a video up on YouTube. They were planning that, and then they didn't reveal that. Presumably, I'm going to guess that they probably were just going to say very similar stuff to this, honestly. But maybe they went into a little bit more specifics. Yeah, this is the new draft. Yeah, this is the new draft. Worst PR ever. They got the Magic the Gathering community talking about it too. Y'all have our support. Yeah, Wizards have basically squandered. I have never seen a company be so high, right? They had the TTRPG market, and all they had to do was not fuck it up. That's all they had to do. They had to just keep going, keep making content, making good content. That's all they had to do. But no, they're too great. They wanted more. They wanted more. And now this is the worst time to be doing this, Wizards of the Coast. This is the worst time because now you've got to convince everybody to go over to 1D&D, and if you've alienated and angered the community, they're going to go to Pathfinder. It happened before. There is a culture in TTRPGs of going from Dungeons & Dragons to Pathfinder when Wizards screw up. This isn't a new thing. This is crazy. Like, the parallels between today and what happened with 4th edition are insane. 4th edition had its own virtual tabletop planned. 4th edition was all about being aggressively monetized using a subscription service called D&D Insider. That's exactly what 1D&D is. 4th edition had updated terms that third parties didn't agree with. This is what's going on right now. And what happened then? Everybody moved over to Pathfinder. Like, literally, they did. They moved over. 4th edition was a failure. Now, I know there are people who really enjoyed 4th edition. I know that there are people who are fans of 4th edition. But as a commercial product, 4th edition, basically, the TTRPG market slipped through the fingers of Wizards of the Coast. And I can see that happening now, except now the TTRPG market is so big that the scale of it is massive. Part of this, though, comes from the fact that in the FAQ we read earlier for 2.0, what we saw was a reference to D&D's IP, right? And I think that this is how Wizards perceive of, and same with Hasbro, they perceive of D&D as an IP that has strength, right? That they can monetize, that they can push through. They want to sell stuff that is kind of ancillary to D&D as well. Thank you very much for the donation there, Joseph. Citadino, thank you very much for the donation. Says, they outright lied in the D&D Beyond post if OGL 2.0 is still a thing. They said there would be no royalty structure, and 2.0 had a royalty structure. Did they say... Willie Dutkowitz, donated $5, thank you very much, says, Hasbro stock dropped 0.56% since the post on Beyond went live. Giggity. Oh my goodness. Now is the time to get your stock out of there, folks. Okay, so the outright lie. Let me just go back to the 2.0 post. Let me just see that for a hot little second. Did they say that there's no royalty structure? Let's see here. Okay, let's see. Royalty. Okay. What it will not contain is any royalty structure. Oh, you're right. Hey, you're right, actually. And that is different from the 2.0. That is different from the 2.0 OGL, the FAQ. Let me just pull that up. Yeah. Yep, a new royalty. The only restrictions on the commercial version of the license are to do with registrations and a new royalty requirement. So there is a royalty structure. I honestly, I'm not even 100% sure what they mean by royalty structure. I don't know if that has a legal meaning or not. I'm actually not sure about that. I don't know about that. But yeah, that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. Thank you for the donation. I'm not surprised, honestly, that the D&D, that Hasbro stock is beginning to drop now, because Dungeons & Dragons is massive, and now that it's starting to hit mainstream press, oof. So Gavin asks, says, what they haven't said is that the OGL 1.0 will remain in place. If they didn't mention that in the 1.0, in the D&D Beyond blog, the FAQ says that it will not. So the 1.0, okay, so this is kind of, so the 1.0 is going to remain in place for anything that was created prior to the existence of OGL 2.0. So anything that was made using the OGL 1.0 license can continue to be sold under that license. Anything made after the 2.0 license will be captured by 2.0. They have to agree to the new 2.0. That includes any new additional content for anything that was made under the 1.0 license. If you get me. And I don't think they said that wasn't the case. So that seems to be the case. Christian I says, it's funny they thank the community for the feedback on a leaked document they never released. Dude, this is gaslighting. This is a gaslighting of the community. It's trying to be like, oh no, this is what we wanted. Oh, all the leaks and the stock drops and everyone's anger and all the D&D Beyond subscription cancellations. Oh, this is what we wanted. Oh, we just wanted feedback. This is good. Oh, cool. Thanks guys. Thanks, bros. This is to placate people, right? This has been done just to placate the community, to stop the bleeding. What we have witnessed today is a tourniquet, an attempt to prevent any more bleeding. I suspect that there might even be another change to the licenses again, and that's what they meant by, like, we're still working on it. Because I suspect that they think that they're not going to be able to get that word. I bet you the next OGL comes out and it has like a paragraph, like 3 paragraphs talking about ownership of the license, clarifying you own it, 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 you own it. Don't worry, you own it. You own the third-party content. You own the third-party content. Do not worry. All this flowery language, making it clear to try and. So I used to draft contracts, and what we would call these clauses were comfort clauses. These were basically designed to try and provide comfort to the other person signing, basically saying, like, we're not going to do that, yes, we need this power, but we don't ever expect to be able to use it. But the thing is, or we don't expect to ever need to use it. But, like, you do that for things that you don't expect that you need to use. I don't think that Wizards don't think they'll ever have to need to take the license off something. And even just having that door open is really, really bad. I think it's a term that people can't agree. Like, if I was a third party, if I was a publisher, if I was making supplements, I'd be like, no thanks, buddy. And Paizo, now I have kind of taken the wind out of Wizards' sails. Like, why not just go with Paizo? I'll say this much. This entire thing has really amped up. It has. Firstly, I honestly, can I thank you all for a second? Can I thank the D&D community? Right, my content, right, that I have done on the Discourse Miniature channel tends to be around wargaming. Okay, I've got a second channel, which is Dungeons and Discourse, which covers TTRPGs. Now, I've played both wargames and TTRPGs for a really long time. Both concurrently, really. TTRPGs for a slightly shorter period of time, since around 2009, but I got into, like, wargames, like, 2003. And there is basically, I have been so impressed by the RPG community and the activism as part of the RPG community, that people have been canceling subscriptions, that they have taken actual concrete things. They have taken charge of the situation, and they have unified as a community to be against these changes that hurt smaller companies in this marketplace. And I am so impressed by the RPG community that people have been able to actually mobilize in this way and to work together in this way to force a company to back off from its aggressive changes. Because when do we ever get to see that in anything else? Video games? The community never quite mobilized in a way to actually convince a video game to stop. There's always this fall back, then push forward. That's what the video game companies always did. With wargaming, last year, Games Workshop revealed this crazy NDA that they were requiring content creators to sign. And what happened there? Nothing. There was no real change. There was an outrage, but there was no real change. There was no substantial changes. So I'm really, really impressed by the TTRPG community to see them actually. It's given me hope, guys. So sometimes I despair a little bit, but this has really given me a lot of hope for the future. And I honestly think that this has been a wake-up call for a lot of people. And I think we're going to see a lot more people go into companies like Paizo and Chaosium, companies that are signing up to these new open game licenses, and that are designed to help the community, to support the community, rather than just simply make a profit, okay? I am genuinely so impressed by the community. Kyle West, thank you very much for the donation, says, you know what they say about the definition of insanity, right? Yeah, exactly. And the Ming Les Bing, thank you very much for the donation, says, Wizard of the Coast is busy worrying about who won and who lost like children on the playground. No, you didn't get me. I have a force field. That's so true. Like, it's such a childish statement, isn't it? Some people are going to say that they won, but no, they didn't actually. We won too. Like, you're totally right. Like, it's so lame. Like, come on, guys. Like, there are, you know what? And it's kind of derogatory. It's honestly, it's a little bit insulting to the concerns that the community has. As if this is like a game to be won or lost. As if this is like just a little bit of fun, you know. Oh, some people are gonna say they won, but they didn't. We won as well. Like, so we have to get the credit. Like, we were up for changing. We have to get the credit for that. These are legitimate concerns. These aren't like just born out of nothingness just for a laugh. Like, these are legitimate concerns, and it feels so dismissive the way that they structured that statement. Honestly, I'm not impressed at all. Daniel, thank you very much for the donation. Says, did you read their weird response on D&D Beyond? Yes, I did. We actually just went over there and we went through the bingo card and we got ourselves a bingo. Absolutely insane. Basquito Games. Hey there. Basquito Game, by the way, makes some really awesome minis. You guys should check out her store. Says, could be a good time for smaller games to be able to poke through the undergrowth and get discovered. I think it's a massive opportunity. What is it Littlefinger said? Chaos is a ladder. I think that this is like a really good opportunity for other companies to get out there and get their face in front of people. How many people had never heard of Paizo before. I honestly think that they're probably a large portion of the D&D community who are just discovering Paizo for the first time, who are actually now really considering Pathfinder, because Pathfinder is the game that's like, we're D&D but better. I bet there are lots of people now who, whenever Pathfinder 2.0 came out, they were like, I play Dungeons and Dragons, I don't really need to play another game. Now they're like, Pathfinder? It's that meme, the guy looking around his shoulder. I think that's what we're seeing right now. But not just that, I think this is now the opportunity for DMs to be like, hey guys, can we play that like Call of Cthulhu game? I want to do a one-shot of that. Like, it's very different, but can we try it out now? And tables are going to be agreeable to that. I think it's awesome. Christian F, thank you very much for the donation, says, we got to be the heroes, we pretend to be RPGing. Yes, I think, honestly, it's really, really impressive. Really, really awesome. And I genuinely, I'm actually sort of shocked, to be honest, because the last, 10 years have been a really, really hard couple of years, watching, some of my favorite hobbies just get monetized aggressively, and to be perfectly frank, I feel so alienated from, video games right now, because I don't like microtransactions, I don't like always on DRM, I don't like a lot of, things that companies now sell to us as if it's just normalized, as if it's just normal, because it's been normalized. I really don't like that, and wargaming is getting increasingly more expensive. It's getting increasingly monopolized by Games Workshop, by Warhammer. So it's really nice to see a community come together and say, no, actually, we're role players, and we actually have expectations. We want to support smaller indie companies. We want to support other companies, and that's really cool. And I really hope what happens is that we get a variety of games now that can rise up to the fore. There is some value in being able to cement things around a brand, because what it means is it makes it slightly easier for people to get into a hobby, because they go, okay, I'm going to look for D&D, right? But I think that, honestly, this new open gaming license from Paizo and others, right, and Green Ronin Games and Chaosium, I think that has the opportunity to be a similar thing. Branding around the idea of being an open system, and therefore there's kind of like a mark of quality, and keep some of that familiarity, right? Instead of it being around a single game. I think that's really, really cool. I think that is honestly really, really cool. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all shapes up. I really am excited for that. This is I started, so this is kind of funny. This whole thing I started off in despair. This entire Dungeons and Dragons stuff, the OGL, it started off with me being like, oh no, this is awful. But now I'm starting to feel a little bit more hopeful. Now that I'm actually seeing that people are doing things like canceling their subscriptions, and there is actual movement in the community against this. I think that's so cool. Joseph Citadinos, thank you very much for the donation, says, we saw the fans change a bad corporate decision through strong pushback only once before. The Sonic movie. That's what it took. That's what it took. It took that little blue hedgehog. Gotta go fast. That's what it took. Thank you very much for the donation there. Merely Upon, thank you very much for the huge donation there. $50. Says, +1 to Wiz, Dex, and Charisma. You may not take a short or long rest for the duration of this campaign. That's it. That's all. That's out to everybody. That's out to everybody there. Thank you very much for that donation. I really, really appreciate that. That's huge. Thank you very much. And Roll of Law. Hello there, Roll of Law. Thank you very much for the donation. Says, this PR statement tells us by careful omission that they plan to keep a lot of really bad stuff. They just hope to trick us into accepting it. So Rule of Law also has a YouTube channel. You guys should check that out. Thank you very much for the donation there. And yes, it does, right? It really does. There were so many issues not addressed in that statement, and it was vague, and it was wishy-washy, and it was like, we're still working on some elements. It really was. I totally agree with you. They still want to trick people into accepting it. But there's gonna be a lot of performative changes. There's gonna be a lot of incidental changes, aesthetic changes, things that don't really matter. Like the way they're focused on trying to get across the fact that they don't own the license of any creator who signs up to there. That doesn't matter. That was never the case. That was never an issue. People knew that wasn't the case. But they're really, really trying to emphasize that as if there has been some changes. And that's wild, Gavin Ralston says orc, O-R-C, not orc, O-R-K, so we don't have to worry about GW throwing a fit. That's totally fair. Let's see here. Chris Pomeroy says there is a great beginner box for Pathfinder 2nd edition. There's a lot of really cool games out there, guys. There's a lot of really cool games out there, and then actually I will have a video out shortly basically going over some really awesome games that you should check out. I've been blessed in that I am a content creator, and I also have been playing hundreds of role-playing games over the last decade and a half, because I'm not one of those people who just had like a D&D game and that's all I played. My entire group of people that I play with are all DMs, so we're constantly jostling. We have the opposite problem. You know why people say there's not enough DMs and like you got these groups of people and there's always like forever DMs? We've got like the opposite issue. Everybody wants to DM, which means there's always a new game happening. And there's been times in my life where I've been playing games like 3 times a week. So I've had a lot of sessions, which means I've played a lot of different games, which means I have a lot of games to recommend if you want to try something different, for sure. Christian says, I love how Paizo named it Orc just to tell Wizards of the Coast their face that they're being actual orcs themselves. Yes, and of course the memes, Christian, the memes of the age of Ogul is over. The age of Orc has begun. Jez Hunt asks, Discourse, did you manage to grab Aliens Another Glorious Day? I have not, Jez. Unfortunately, I can't find it. I just can't find it anywhere. I don't think it exists anymore for to buy. It's really sad. I really want to play it. Devin Forsyth says, oh my god, I can't wait for my copy of Pirate Borg. Oh. Yeah, I actually really want to try. I haven't tried Cyborg, and I really want to play that. I played Mothership the other day. It was a ton of fun. Rule of Law says DM hoarding. Yes, we're keeping it in our group. It's a ton of fun, and sandbox games are a lot of fun as a result. Alinian says Pathfinder 2.0 is more tactical, whereas 5th edition is more story focused. aka if tactical combat is your thing, Pathfinder 2.0. If casual social storytelling is your thing, 5th edition. Yeah, I can see that. I actually think that 5th edition is kind of crunchy and pretty mechanical heavy for casual storytelling as well, though. I actually think there's other games that I probably recommend just for casual storytelling for sure. Chaotic Tabri says also both Matt Colville and Cobalt Press announced they are working on their new game systems. Black Flag will use the Orc license. Oh, I did not know that Black Flag was originally the open game license. Black Flag license from Cobalt Press is now apparently being used, is now using the Orc license. That's really cool. I know that Matt Colville won't be using the Orc license because he plans on using his own OGL, which I think is actually totally fine. And yeah, I think he had some really good reasoning for that as well. I'm actually really excited to see what Matt Colville comes out, because I've been a big fan of his like content since like 2016 or 2017, whenever he first started putting out content. For the Horde, says Creative Role Playing. Yes, exactly. Nerdalgia says, I didn't even think about Paizo making Wizards of the Orcs. So many layers. There really has been. Guys, this has been like watching an onion slowly unpeel itself. And it turns out that like it was super gross inside, but then also there was like a really nice, I don't know where this is going, but there was really nice layers here and there. I'm really sad that this whole, like, I'm really sad that the OGL stuff had to happen for Wizards to receive some element of like pushback. And I'm really sad about the OGL changes because I think they're bad. Like, I think that the OGL changes are bad. And I still think that lots of third parties are going to be pressured into signing them. But I think one of the things that will help third parties feel less pressured to signing them are alternatives like Orc from Paizo, and also with community support. I think if the community are against the new OGL, I think that smaller third-party publishers will feel less inclined to sign on to them. Think about the way AI art is treated right now. Like, it's kind of a death sentence to release a supplement book with AI art, right? Because nobody wants to see all the artists go executing out of work. So I think that if there's a similar kind of I think if it's politicized, whether or not you sign the OGL or not, and if it's seen as a bad thing, I think that is actually huge. It just sucks that they had to change the OGL. It really does suck, because this is really hurting people. I've talked to designers, I've talked to publishers, I've talked to third-party people who really relied on the OGL that are devastated by this, and it really sucks that it had to happen. But I honestly do feel like there is a bit of a silver lining here, that Wizards of the Coast have discovered something really important about the TTRPG community, which is that we're an engaged, active audience. We are not a passive audience who will just accept changes. We are not the people who shop at Amazon. Well, we are, because everybody has to. But we're not the type of people who will just accept these types of changes and roll over to it. And I think that's really, really important for them to learn. Really important for them to learn. It's just a pity it had to be such a kamikaze learning process. Joseph Citadino, thank you very much for the donation, says, if you want casual storytelling, Fate, Dungeon World, and Open Legend exist as alternative to D&Ds. I have not played Open Legend, actually. I don't know Open Legend, but thank you for the suggestions. Fate and Dungeon World are both massive games. I haven't played Open Legend, though. Is that relatively new? But thank you for the donation, Joseph. And the $50 donation from Jez Hunt, thank you very much. Our £50 donation, thank you very much, says, Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Corpse is on Amazon at the Mo. This should cover it. Merry Christmas. Cheers to the good content. Thank you very much for the heads up. Thank you very much for the heads up there, Jazz. I really appreciate that, because I have been looking that game for years now. And here's the deal. I have heard that it's not that good. I've heard that it's not that great a game from the reviews. I just really, really want to play it because I love Aliens. So thank you very, very, very much for the donation there and for the tip as well. Merry Christmas to you too. Fiat is under the OGL, says Michael. It's kind of surprising how many games. This is the thing that Wizards, I think, they've accidentally angered the audiences of all these different games who have now come together in this coalition of chaos. And they've created this orc license, and now they're coming after Wizards. The arrogance. There was a lot of hubris, I think, in this decision. There was a lot of hubris. That's one hell of a metaphor, says GR. I don't know where it was going, dude. I don't know where it was going. 25 years I've played, says Shane. 25 years. You're beating me out. You're beating me out. I think it's wild. I honestly think that all of this is wild. But there are echoes of 4th edition here, and I'm really... Look, this is bad for a lot of people. It really is. But I can't help but selfishly be a little bit excited to find out about what will happen now. You know, like, what's going to happen now? I'm eagerly looking forward to that because there's been some real rays of hope, which is not what I expected when this all started. I expected this to be really bad for everybody, and I don't want to I don't want to talk as if it's not going to hurt people, because it really is, and people are going to be put out of work and stuff for this, and I think those are really bad, and I've done videos on that, but I'm happy. It's nice to see the community come together. It really is nice. Leche Colleen says, Worlds Without Number has become my group's go-to TTRPG. I haven't played that one, actually. Scott Black says, 1976, my first play of D&D. Wow, that's awesome. I played a game of Fantasy Trip, and I did it as a 1977 night. It was for a friend's birthday. And we had like music and stuff from like 1977. We had snacks and things like that. And we played Fantasy Trip with the old chits on the grid, and it was a lot of fun. It was a ton of fun. It was a lot of fun. Awesome, guys. Well, thanks very much for joining me today. It's been a wild day. First, we just talked about the 2.0 changes that had been suggested on social media. Then we got the 2.0 FAQ. They just fell. We just stumbled across them. Winky, winky. And then Wizard of the Coast released a statement that supports a lot of the stuff that we saw in the FAQs. So that's pretty wild day for an impromptu stream. Pretty wild day. I see everybody is don't drink your brush water, says Anthony. Too late, my friend. Too late. I see everybody's coming out with the years. This is crazy. 1986, says the old Dragoon. I'm a relative newbie. 1987, says Jez Hunt. 1983 for Steven. Wow. That's wild. Those are some wild numbers. I thought that I was kind of like getting on a little bit starting in the 2000s, but no, I am but a child. I feel like a human in talking with elves, you know? Thank you for covering this, Miss Discourse, says Sean. Well, thank you very much for being here, guys. I really do. I just want to thank everybody for being here and for making the community what it is, and for actually taking a stand against abuses, against smaller companies. And it felt like a while there, like D&D was the only game in town, and it's really nice for Wizard of the Coast and for myself to be reminded that that's not the case, and that actually people can come together over this stuff because we were an engaged, collaborative audience. I mean, look, Dungeons and Dragons, role-playing games in general, they're about being, you know, protagonist characters, heroes, and trying to fight monsters and stuff. So that's really cool. That is really cool. And thank you very much for the donation there, Walter Starr, for the $5 donation. Says 45-year D&D veteran here. Once Orc is released, I will only play games released under Orc. I really hope that that we continue to see the same activism. And remember, cancel your D&D, cancel your D&D Beyond, because that's the only way that they're going to listen to it. That's the only numbers they care about are the actual numbers. Max Fitzgerald says the RPG community seems cool. They do, don't they, Max? They do. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you very much for joining me today. I didn't even plan on streaming today, so I'm really glad that I did, because it was pretty wild. Thanks to everybody who donated. Thanks to all the patrons. Thanks to all the community members. Thanks to everybody who joined and chatted. And thanks to everybody who helped me fill in the bingo card, because we got a bingo, people. And I'll catch y'all next time, guys. And I'll see ya. Bye-bye. Oh, I gotta hit and. Oh, I forgot about that.